We'll call tonight's meeting to order. It looks like some of you are not football fans, so you made it here tonight. I understand there's quite a game that you're missing, and I do understand that we're quite more exciting than the football game. So with that, do we have any closed session reports?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On items B1 and 2, the City Council voted by a tally of 5-0 to appoint an ad hoc subcommittee of Mayor Mashburn and Mayor Pro Tem Judge to negotiate an employment agreement with the city manager. And on item B5, the City Council voted by a tally of 5-0 to authorize the city's intervention in the case of Robert Bellinger versus Roger Cody, case number 56, 2019, 00527727 CU-PA-VTA on item B5. And that concludes the report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would the Honorable Doug Vanforth lead us in the pledge?
All active duty veterans and first responders may render a hand salute. All others hold your hand over your heart, ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Doug. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kavanaugh? Here. Councilmember Litzter? Here. Councilmember Luevanos? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Judge?
Here.
And Mayor Mashburn?
Here. Okay, everybody have opportunity to review the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll note that we have a supplemental to agenda item 4B. There was one condition that was left off the staff report.
Okay.
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Is there anyone who has declaration of conflict on any of tonight's agenda? No? Great.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, there are no certificates, honorary resolutions, or proclamations tonight. Mr. Mayor, the second item on the agenda, public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. There are no speaker cards submitted for this item. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, there are no items under 3A for appointments, and there are no special presentations under the next item, agenda item 3B. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, agenda item 3C, 1, an informational presentation by Youth Council, and Ashley Kilmnick is here for this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of City Council. Thank you for inviting me to speak this evening. My name is Ashley Kilmnick, and I'm currently a junior at Simi Valley High School. It is my great honor and privilege to be representing the youth of my community tonight on the proceedings of Youth Council. Tonight, I will be addressing the proceedings of Youth Council over the past couple of weeks. Preparations for Youth Council's 2020 Youth Town Hall are well underway. Youth Council members selected public health with an emphasis on substance abuse and vaping as their focus for the event. The Youth Town Hall auditions were conducted and speaking roles were assigned. The discussion panelists include Dr. Deborah Salgado, Director of Secondary Education with the Simi Valley Unified School District, Vicki Gonzalez, Health Education and Health Policy Community Services Coordinator with Ventura Council of Public Health, Gabriel Turan, Operations Specialist of Health and Prevention Programs with the Ventura County Office of Education, and Pat Montoya, President of Not One More. The Youth Town Hall will take place this Friday, January 17th, 2020, at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum, and will be live streamed by the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. Preparations for our 2020 Youth Summit are also in process. The event this year will be held at the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District's new Activity Center and District Office located on 4201 Guardian Street. Additionally, Explore Your Purpose was chosen as the 2020 Youth Summit theme and slogan. I am excited to announce that the Youth Council selected Schools on Wheels as the 2020 Youth Summit Community Service Project recipient. Finally, Jenna Edwards, actor, award-winning film producer, and #1 best-selling author, will be our Youth Summit motivational speaker. Students are encouraged to register to attend this free event by visiting www.simivalley.org/Youth Summit as soon as possible, as space is limited to the first 150 students. In November, the City Transit Supervisor, Christopher Lantham, and Transit Operations Assistant, Menina George, gave a brief presentation to the Youth Council on the new route configuration, which includes a number of changes to increase efficiency and convenience for transit riders. We have continued working on our 2019-2020 work plan and formed committees to address the focus areas, which includes technology related to schools, mental health, substance use and vaping, and college grant and scholarship awareness. In December, Youth Council members volunteered at Adventist Health Simi Valley's Foundation's Festival of Trees event, assisting children at Simi Valley Education Foundation's Kids Craft Table. Additionally, Youth Council donated a multicultural themed wreath to the event that helps raise money for cancer patients and their families. Youth Council meetings are held on the first and third Tuesday of every month during the school year. The next Youth Council meeting will be on Tuesday, January 21st at 5 p.m. in the City Hall Community Room. Meetings are public, and as always, attendance is more than welcome. I would like to take this time to thank Mayor Mashburn and the members of the City Council for having me here tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions for Ashley? Comments?
I'm looking at Councilwoman Litzar.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you, Ashley, and I've been to so many of your meetings and appreciate all the effort that you guys put forth and the collaborative efforts as I'm writing letters of recommendation for people who ask me for them. I always think of my youth council and what I would say and what I would include. And you guys are the future that we're looking in terms of what the policy making is that we're doing up here on the dais. So the public health issue is an issue that helps us figure out how we can help the generational issues that are impacting youth. So I'm really glad that we're having the youth town hall, and everyone's invited to the youth town hall. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are they excused from school as they go?
Yes, a school business absence.
Okay, and the youth summit as well?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to put that out there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Good job. Go Pioneers. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is public hearings. This is a time and place set for public hearings on the consideration of matters as presented on this agenda. Let the record show that due notice was given as required by law, and an affidavit to this effect is on file in the City Clerk's office. The reports of the city staff relating to these matters shall be made part of the record of this meeting. Speakers during the public hearings shall limit their comments to matters relevant to the item on the agenda and may be ruled out of order if comments are unrelated to the item. If you challenge in court and any of the City Council decisions made here tonight, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing. The time within the judicial review must be sought is governed by California Code of Civil Procedure, Section 109.6. Agenda item 4A, a public hearing to consider the application of 1260 Patricia Avenue Associates, LLC, for a planned development permit PDS 1067, affordable housing agreement, and density bonus with concessions and waivers to construct a 3-story, 54-unit apartment complex, including 4 affordable units on a 1.82-acre site located at 1270 Patricia Avenue, a determination that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and adoption of resolutions. And Stratus Perros and Cesar Hernandez are here for this presentation. Mr. Mayor, you may begin the public hearing.
Thank you. Rather than read what she just read, I'm going to skip to, may I have a reading of the resolution, please?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving an affordable housing agreement, AHAR 052, with 1260 Patricia Avenue Associates, LLC, Vantage Apartments, for the development of a 54-unit apartment complex, including 4 affordable units for property located at 1270 Patricia Avenue.
Okay, are there any ex parte communications to report?
Pardon me, can I just inquire, Madam Clerk, did you read the first resol also? I think there's 2 resos on this.
No, there's 2.
I apologize. Yes, there is one more resolution. Resolution 202003 was the resolution I just read. Resolution 2020-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving Plan Development Permit PDS 1067 for construction of a 54-unit apartment complex with affordable housing component located at 1260 Patricia Avenue, and a determination that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. Thank you.
Great. Are there any ex parte communications to report? I don't know if it's ex parte required, but being a member of the Affordable Housing Committee, I've seen this project previously. Okay. Also, Councilmember Judge, same thing. Okay, we have a oral report by staff. Mr. Paris.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mashburn. Good evening, council members. Tonight's project, of course, is for a 54-unit apartment building at 1260, 1270 Patricia Street. The site is currently vacant, and just like many of our properties along the arroyo, it's difficult to develop. It has, difficult soils to use. It's long and a deep lot, and there's a lot of challenges with this type of site. There have been previous entitlements on this project site that were never, they were approved, but just never built. The current applicant was involved with this project earlier this year. We met with them early on. There's some challenges with our code to make a building fit. So that's one of the reasons it's an affordable project, and there's certain concessions and waivers that are being requested tonight. The project was submitted in May. It was deemed complete shortly thereafter. On November 12th, this project was presented to the neighborhood council, and there was no opposition to the project. There was unanimous approval by the audience and by the executive board. The project went to the Planning Commission on December 4th, and it was also unanimously recommended for approval to the City Council. And then also on December 5th, the Affordable Housing Subcommittee reviewed the project, and they also recommended approval for the Affordable Housing Agreement. Associate Planner Cesar Hernandez is here tonight, and he will be making the staff presentation.
Thanks, Stratus. Good evening, Council. The applicant proposes to construct a 3-story, 54-unit apartment complex on a 1.82 vacant lot located at 1260, 1270 Patricia Avenue. Of the 54 units, 4 are designated as affordable for tenants that qualify under the very low income category. Looking south is the Arroyo Simi. To the west are multifamily dwelling units, 2-story condos. To the east are single-family dwelling units and townhomes, and to the north is a 3-story office building. The development includes 33 2-bedroom units and 21 1-bedroom units. The building includes an open courtyard with seating. Its site amenities include a vehicular access gate, a small fitness center, media room, community room, lobby lounge area, an office, and a small fenced-off dog area. The parking includes 91 parking spaces, including 18 that are covered. I just wanted to point out, and it's not kind of clear here, and I apologize, maybe it's just too much light, but in the middle of this project, you could see the courtyard. Thanks, Lucy. The courtyard here and some open seating, and the roof plan also mimics this to a certain extent, of course. So there's roof amenities with a barbecue pit and spa, and here in the southeast corner is the dog area for the pets. And this is a gated area here to the recreational Simi bike path, which is one of the selling points for this project as well. Now, the applicant, of course, is no stranger to Simi Valley, and this project here is the Patricia Park project located at 1196 Patricia Avenue. So just kind of show and demonstrate some compatibility between the two. This was completed recently, and according to the applicant, it's almost at full capacity. Now, looking at the color rendering of the current project, it kind of shows some similarities, of course, and some breaks in the architectural features and its compatibility along Patricia Avenue. City Council is to consider the affordable housing agreement for approval. Now, with the agreement, the applicant is requesting that the city agree to provide 32.5% density bonus in exchange to set aside for affordable units to very low, pursuant to state density bonus law, Government Code Section 65915, and an additional 10% density bonus pursuant to Government Code Section 65619N. and Simi Valley Municipal Code Section 931-.020A2. This in exchange would offer 3 enhanced project benefits, which include the following. The trees to be selected for summer shading and planted in locations that would achieve energy efficiencies. The project will also offer 3,613 square feet for community spaces, and also 2 parking spaces above the minimum required designated for car service parking, such as Uber, Lyft, taxi. The applicant further requests that the city grant 2 development code concessions and 1 waiver pursuant to Government Code Section 65915E1, State Density Bonus Law. One of the concessions is to increase the allowable building height from 40 feet to 48 feet to accommodate the elevator shaft, storage closet, and enclosed stairwell, representing a 20% increase in the allowable building height. And also to reduce the setback along the east property line from 15 to 13.5 feet, representing a 9% reduction of the side yard setback. And 1 waiver is to increase the allowable walking distance from 200 feet to 232 feet from entry to the apartment unit and the design it is designed to serve. Therefore, staff recommends the City Council consider the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval of PDS 1067 and the Affordable Housing Subcommittee's recommendation of approval of the project's affordable housing agreement. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Susan. This time is for questions of staff. So any council members have questions of staff? Okay,
I do.
Councilmember Blitzer.
Thank you. Just want to clarify, there's 54 units, so that would be 50 that are at market rate, is that correct? And 4 then are the set aside for low income, is that correct?
Correct.
And the concession is basically they're being allowed to build 13 more units, is that?
Yeah, well, this is a very rare application of a double density bonus. So it's the base zoning for this 1.82 acre site. It allows for a maximum of, I'm sorry, is it 35 or 20? Here we go. Eric Chen, our housing planner, I think he had some of the numbers here for it.
I believe that is correct. It totals, at residential high, you're getting at 37, and the remaining will bring it up to 54 units.
Okay.
Yeah, so the base zoning allows about 37, and the total density bonus that would add an additional 17.
Gotcha. It wasn't clear to me as I read through the material. It says apartments, so are these all for rent or are they for purchase?
No, these are all apartments for rent.
Yet it talks about an HOA somewhere in the body of the document.
Would that be in the agreement?
No, according to the applicant, there's no.
Okay, I don't know what, I should, okay, I have to go back and find, when you go, I'll find my page number, but that's, okay, because that was confusing to me. Okay, that was my understanding. So there's no intent of developing these in any ways for purchase? These are
Correct.
apartment, okay. And the ratio of parking spaces, I know it meets code, it's 1 for a single and 2 for a double bed, 2 bedrooms, is that correct?
Right, yeah.
So I think this slide here shows the 91 total parking spaces, which exceeds the required number, 18 of which are covered. 1 space for each 1-bedroom unit and 2 for each 2-bedroom is being provided.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just had a real quick question. Was it the north side that has the 3-story building?
Yes.
Across the street?
Across the street.
That's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Sorry. I had a question. I'm looking at all this rooftop space. If you went to the slide you had before this, which shows the rooftop, I like the amenities on the rooftop, but I'm seeing all this empty roof space where it would be perfect for solar. Or rooftop gardening, or a number of things that we could do to reduce our carbon footprint and to take advantage of that energy. That it feels like empty space up there. Has the developer considered, as far as you know, solar panels at all?
I'll have the applicant address that directly. The new state laws sometimes do mandate that all new development, new state building code law does mandate all new development to have solar panels on them. Sometimes there's an exception if a building's a certain height. In this case, there's a lot of rooftop mechanical equipment that's not being shown, so it's not as clear and open as the rendering implies right there in that image. But there will be some other potential for if they wanted to for the solar. But he can speak to that more directly.
Okay, and again, if you can't answer this question, I'll ask the applicant, but was there any possibility of having more than 4 affordable units, or is that the maximum? Or?
It's what our code requires, and these are at the very low income category, so you don't have to provide as many units if they were, let's say, low income or moderate income. Because they're catering to the very lowest category, they get the density bonus, but with less number of units.
And how long would the very low income categorization take place?
For 55 years.
For 55 years, and after 55 years, they can go to market rate.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, one more question. Since I have all 3 of you here, how much of our RENA numbers would this fulfill, of our very low income?
On paper, it will fulfill 4 units. However, this particular area is considered as low and moderate income area, and therefore the city will attempt to claim credit for the entire 54 units.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Judge, you have any questions? Okay, applicant, would the applicant like to be heard this time?
Good evening. My name is Chris Aituli. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about our development, The Vantage, which is a 54-unit multifamily mixed-income community which provides essential housing opportunities located at 1260 Patricia Avenue. This development is located a few hundred yards away from our newly completed sister property, Patricia Park Apartments, which opened last July to much success. When we started this project, our team looked outward, not inward. We have been actively engaged with the key stakeholders of the community, specifically Neighborhood Council Number 2, where the site is located, where we received unanimous support for our project. We've also received great support from city planning staff and Public Works, which have been excellent to work with. And we received great support last month from the Planning Commission, who also offered unanimous support for the project. Let's see here. As way of quick background, our team and my partners are a diverse group of local developers and design professionals that have been active in the Simi Valley development community since 2015. Many of us, including myself, have grown up in the Conejo Valley and surrounding areas, so the developments we have put so much attention to detail into mean a lot because they are in our own backyard, and we are investing not only our own private funds into these properties' completion, but also staking our reputations on them. This is just a list of some of the partners involved. As planning staff mentioned, the site is currently vacant. It's an infill, high-density zone parcel of land surrounded by commercial and residential uses. The site has never been developed and remains an eyesore for this corridor. Right now, there's a lot of concrete, vacant fencing, and there's a lot of half-dead trees on the property. Our goal since the inception of our first community, and it remains the same for this new development, the Vantage, is that we want to transform the Patricia corridor with high-end essential housing apartment complexes with all the upscale amenities and programming you would find in a high-end hotel. We have found that by using high-end finishes in the apartments and having upscale common area amenities that are unique and exciting, it brings new life not only to the individual complex, but also the entire city. We want to keep young professionals here in the city of Simi Valley, and we're trying to offer Simi Valley residents a fun and exciting, cool place to live. Our business plan worked out very well on the last property with excellent leasing volume in the last half a year since we opened, and we know that there's still tremendous need, so that's why we're developing this property as well. Oops. We have found that our residents want the following, and we will be providing these amenities and features in this new complex. Free Wi-Fi. As soon as the resident steps on the site, they will have free Wi-Fi that's included in their rent. They also will have free cable TV service that's also included in their rent. We'll have a modern gym, conference center, and media center. We'll have a package delivery center. We're working with a unique provider that we worked on the last complex, and we'll be working with them again, Parcel Pending. It's a package delivery vault. So when Amazon delivers a package to one of our residents, they are notified via their smartphone with a text. The center will hold that package in a controlled, safe environment. This will eliminate theft. Stainless steel appliance package in every apartment with French door refrigerators and gas range stovetops. Washer and dryer in every apartment. Nest thermostats so residents can control their heating and air from their cell phone. Latch keyless entry and access control system. We designed this community like our other sister property with security in mind. The main gate will have a controlled access key fob system, and we will have an extensive camera system that will monitor the property 24/7 and keep our residents safe and the community safe. All the doors in the community, including the residence door, will also be able to be controlled from your iPhone, so you won't have to have a key. You can open it just by putting your phone next to the door. We wanted to show you, these are a few more of the amenities, which Caesar touched on. These are images from our last project. You could see our lobby on the left, our gym in the center, and then a conference room on the third floor. We just wanted to show some of the images to City Council just to show we deliver what we promised. These are interiors of the property. You can see the French door stainless steel appliances, the high-end flooring, and the modern interiors. This is the rendering when we met you last time a few years ago in 2016 when we presented. This was the rendering, and then Caesar showed you the finished product. So again, we wanted to show the City Council that what we're designing, we actually will build, and we're excited to build this next project. These are photos. This is a photo of the courtyard of our sister property. There's a pool and a lot of open area space. Outdoor fireplace, seating, and you could have free Wi-Fi. When you go out, we see residents going out on their iPad, enjoying that area, and it's all been great. In closing, I just want to touch on housing. Housing's become a hot topic in California, given the housing shortage that exists in our state and our region. The Vantage will help to address this by providing quality housing to the area's workforce for residents like firemen, police, nurses, and teachers. Ventura County is in need of essential housing to solve this housing crisis, and we like to say one smart infill development at a time. Housing is needed to help grow the area's workforce and help with job growth. There are limited housing options available that are causing young people to relocate out of the county and state due to limited and not enough quality housing supply. Our team knows that this development will continue to help satisfy this need and will help the community as a whole. Lastly, I just want to say a sincere thank you to the Planning Department, Public Works, the City Manager's Office, and the entire team at Building and Safety. It's been a pleasure for our entire team to work with all these team members, and we consider them team members over the past couple of years, and we're looking forward to working again on this next project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any blue cards, people within the council that wish to speak tonight?
We have one speaker for this item, Mayor Mashburn.
Okay, let's go ahead and have them speak.
I just submitted a card as well.
Jorge Garcia.
Good evening, Excellency, council members. You know, I'm here to support this project, speak for it, and not to speak to any one of the amenities, whether there's a vault to stop the porch pirates or any of those kind of specific things, whether the gym is equipped with some kind of equipment rather than another, but just to adding more housing stock in this city. You know, it's becoming a real. I was going to speak about something else about social climate and so on, but you know, the last couple of weeks have convinced me that I need to speak up on this issue of housing. I was at a party, social gathering, involved people from across the county, met somebody new from West County, and he says, "You live in Ventura County?" "Sure." "Where?" "East County." "Oh, where?" I told him, "Simi." And here's where we're getting a bum rap, like several others we have. He says, "Simi, huh? So you're in the low rent district." This is somebody that obviously doesn't know what they're talking about, doesn't read the Ventura County Star, because from the articles I see, we come in usually about second in terms of the price of renting and housing. So, and that is critical to what's going on in our community. You know, we just lost a theater. Right there in the same complex, you know, Cienfuegos, the Cuban restaurant, just closed. And, you know, my wife and I, we used to go over to Versailles on Ventura Boulevard. This is a much handier location if we, felt like having some Cuban food. And I hear that, not just with Cienfuegos, but others, they say, well, the rent went up. Yeah, the rent is going up. That's a reality of life. But rent going up is not a problem if you have customers. And we need customers. We need consumers. I don't like this culture of consumption we have here, but I realize that's what keeps it going. And, the Christmas season took me up into the mall. I walked the length of the mall, and I'm going, what is happening? Well, actually, what is not happening here is that consumers are not going there and purchasing or, enjoying. There's a couple of the eateries there, and, but where are the customers? Because I've been following and looking at online, some of the real estate ads going up. I got unsolicited an ad for 6 houses starting at 1.2 million up to 1.7 million here in town. And I said, that's fine if you can afford it. Those people don't consume here locally. They'll go shopping elsewhere, especially when we're losing the businesses here. We need housing for more modest income people, because They don't have, there's an old movie, Bread and Chocolate, said, God must have loved the poor. He made so many of them. He says, and the thing about the poor as consumers, they don't earn a lot of money per capita and individually and family-wise, but they spend what they earn to live. And that's what we need here, to try to keep some of these places open and to keep services and goods available to us and not have to leave town or turn to, I mean, it's very handy to go online and order something, but that doesn't do much, here in town. I heard a presentation over the weekend on public radio and saying, wow, for all the people that you're putting out of work in retail, we have people who are driving around delivering the goods. I said, that's nonsense. What kind of a living is that if that's the great job for you, to drive a van and deliver in neighborhoods? That's creating traffic in the neighborhoods, it's creating pollution. I really think not just this, I'm for this project, almost blindly for it in the sense it's adding housing stock. And it has some that are affordable for lower income people. But I think this has to be replicated wherever we can and within reason around town, because we need consumers in town. I never thought I would be speaking like this in front of you saying, no, bring more possibilities of consumption. Usually I'm kind of anti-consumption, saying we're often a culture of consuming. If Descartes were alive today, he'd say, I consume, therefore I am. But some consumption is absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Any other cards?
Rebecca Albaran.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rebecca Albaran, and I am here to support the project. I think that it is imperative that we do our part and start to try to address this housing issue that we have throughout Ventura County, that we have in the city of Simi Valley. And I think that this is a good project. They've had another project nearby, and I think it is worth a project that we do need. I think that, we definitely need the housing, and the more housing that we're able to approve, I think it's going to benefit us ultimately in the long run. There is no caps to cities. I know a lot of people don't understand that, but there isn't, and we have a lot of residents here, young professionals, as they mentioned, that are in very much need of housing. And I think that this is a good project that the City Council, should be supporting. I think that what we've lacked as far as leadership and City Council is really housing advocates. And I hear a lot of, not in my backyard. And today I'm really here to say, yes, yes, we do need this project. It happens actually to fall within the district that I belong to. So I am really happy to see more housing come to my particular district. And it is something to think about for those individuals that are trying to address the housing needs when we're talking about districts within Simi Valley. Of course, all of Simi Valley, but particularly, for me, it affects me because it is within my new district that I'll be voting on. So I do think that it's something we should be supporting. The only question I really had was they mentioned free Wi-Fi, but then they also mentioned that it was included in the rent. So I don't really know if that's free, if it's included in your rent. But so thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No one else? Okay, staff, do you care to respond to any of the comments? No. How about the applicant? Do you have any further to say? Okay. At this time, the hearing is closed. Are there any comments or questions from members of the City Council? Councilmember Litzter.
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to go where it referenced the HOA was in the neighborhood council meeting, so maybe they were confused in conversation, just so you know that I wasn't completely crazy. But thank you for the clarification. I wanted to tell you that I am excited about this project. One of the concerns I believe sometimes on Patricia is a concern of parking and whether it was being properly mitigated. And so I did go out and drive there at 11:30 last night just to see what the parking situation was on that road and saw your beautiful new development. I was curious to see how full it was, so it was lovely. My sense was it will be a wonderful addition to what is there right now. And as I saw the 3-story building across the street, recognized in scale, it seemed well designed. I was appreciative that you have not tried to make your concession to have less parking, but that you were mindful that there is that need. And I think that it is very appropriate what you've designed for that position. And so I do think it is a very worthwhile project. Delighted that also includes the affordability component. I think that's very important. And so just here to speak to my support of a good project. Thank you.
Any others?
I have questions for the applicant. I don't know if the applicant would like to come up and answer. With regard to the solar, is there any possibility of adding any solar at all?
So on the last project, we did have a solar system on the roof, but as Stratus mentioned, that rendering is a little deceiving. On our last project, we did not have a rooftop component. This site is a lot tighter, and the roof space will fill up quickly. Now, we have parapets, so you won't be able to see any of that from the street. It's all going to be screened, but there will be more equipment on that roof than seen, and we're trying to have common area spaces in the rear portion of the site. So we're going to have deck space, chairs, as Cesar mentioned, and our fireplace is going to be on the roof this time. So long story short, we're going to try, but I don't think we're going to have the room. So I'm going to say it's probably not likely that we're going to have the space for it.
Any possibility of the covered parking spaces having solar?
So on our last project and on this project, our partnership group, from a management perspective, we do not do covered parking. We have some covered parking that are going to be carports, but around the perimeter, from a fire perspective, we have a hammerhead turnaround. And then from a management perspective, it doesn't allow us to have cantilevered parking. What we've found, and we manage a lot of units in the area, is that it becomes a huge management situation because people hit those parking or the shade structures. So we also on this project, we're not going to have covered parking around the perimeter. So there's not availability there either for solar.
Okay. My other question is, I could see people wanting to be there and not having, because there's so many amenities in the area. There's grocery markets and gyms and hopefully a theater coming back sometime soon. But I could see where people would not feel the need to take their car out if they wanted to go grab a bite to eat.
Exactly.
But I could see where they would use their bikes. So I don't know if there's anything in there for bike racks or for scooters. A lot of people are buying scooters now, they're electric scooters, and for skates, skateboards. So I don't know if there's any racks for any of that.
There is. I forgot to mention that, and I should have mentioned that. We do have bike storage on our last project and this project. We actually designed on every floor, and it will be on this development as well. It's actually mini storage units that are actually quite large. So something you would see at, say, a public storage with a roll-up door, where people could either store household goods or they are large enough for bicycles. So on our previous development, we are finding that after people come home from work, they aren't wanting to get back in their car sometimes, and they are using either the bike trail or, because I'm part of the management for that project, or they're riding their bike or walking to the Starbucks across the street. So yeah, we are anticipating that, and we have planned for that.
And scooter and skateboard storage as well?
Yeah, storage will be for all of those items. We're not providing scooters or skateboards.
I'm not asking you. I just see a lot of millennials and even older generation. As I travel around cities, a lot of people are buying their own electric scooters.
Exactly.
I have students that are buying their own electric scooters. And that's just a new mode of transportation, regardless of whether they're for rent or not. People are just like, you know what, for this amount of money, I'll have my own electric scooter, and that's why I'm asking.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, and you mentioned charging stations. So how many charging stations will you have?
So electric vehicle charging stations on this project, and I don't have the exact number, but I think we have 2 or 3. We work with a provider called ChargePoint, and I think on this property we'll have 2 or 3 charging stations. We have, on the last project, I think that is the way of the future, and we've planned for that. So we have conduit ready for that. But on the last project, no one has so far asked for a charging station, but we are ready for that next phase. And we anticipate that is the way of the future, so we're planning for that. We're future-proofing the building for that.
Okay. I just want to say, this is something that I could see would allow our working, I don't know how else to say it, our working residents to stay here. And that would alleviate some of the parents who have their children coming back home to live with them.
Exactly.
To have some more space in their homes, which is what I hear constantly. I really want my 26-year-old to move out. But there's no apartments, as you well stated with the vacancy. I even heard a yes from the audience. So this is the kind of thing that they're looking for, and they're looking for the amenities. And I like that this development aesthetically has the facade of the balconies. Are those real balconies? Is that just facade of a balcony? But it's more broken up and less boxy than the other ones. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that aesthetically it looks more modern, but it's not as boxy as the other one. So, for this project and hopefully for future projects, and I appreciate you coming and investing, and I hope that you really do follow through. Sometimes we get pitches and then it doesn't happen, so I'm glad to see that you have history of actually following through, because this is something, as you see with our audience here, that people are really in need of housing in this community. And I want to thank you for offering the very low affordable.
Of course.
Because that is very much a need. We have, just like we have firefighters and teachers, we have, janitors and, and landscape people. So we have people of all walks of life. So this is very much filling a need, and if anything, keeping families together as well.
Exactly. We agree.
And supporting our businesses. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Hey, Councilmember Kavanaugh.
No, I was ready to move the resolution, unless somebody else wants to talk.
I just want to ask one question since.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have access to the arroyo through this apartment building?
We do. On the last property, we have bike access in the rear, this project as well. And on the last project, we didn't build a dog park. On this project, we planned ahead for that. So we have that on this property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have I think more of a comment to you. It looks to me, when I'm looking at the last project, this project, and the affordable housing, that you're trying new things in this community.
We are.
You're bringing new vision to the community. But what I also was impressed with is you're giving us data. You're telling us what's working, maybe what isn't working so well. And I hope that you, as you gain experience with these projects, will continue to work with staff in sharing what's working, what isn't working, so we can continue to build quality housing for the community. Because, none of us have a crystal ball and know exactly what's going to work. I mean, a lot of us think they have it, but the reality is it's building it and living it is really going to tell the end story. So, again, I hope you'll stay in touch with staff and let them know what's working well, what isn't working well, what the tenants like, what they don't like.
We've been extremely active as staff. I probably bother staff too much. I'm here on a weekly basis. So we have learned a little bit of it. We've done market studies, but then once you actually deliver the product, you see where the demand is. Our last project, what we promised, which was a millennial-driven complex, has proven to be true. On this next project, we're going to hopefully see that same demand. And our goal, my partners and I's goal, is to continue down the Patricia corridor, like I mentioned, and that is the truth. We want to redevelop that corridor. So this is number 2. Hopefully, there's a 3 and 4.
Great. Thank you very much. This time,
sir.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Okay, I did want to say, having lived on Patricia Avenue one time, this is wonderful doing the redevelopment, so thank you very much. I move to adopt a resolution approving the plan development permit number PD-S-1067 to construct a 54-unit apartment complex and determining that the project is exempt from California Environmental Quality Act, and to adopt a resolution approving the Affordable Housing Agreement AHA-R-052.
Second.
Motion second, call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Four B.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is 4B, a public hearing to consider a request from Forefront Development Incorporated for a general plan amendment, GPA-100, to change the general plan land use designation from industrial to moderate residential. A zone change, Z-S-739, to change the zoning designation from light industrial to residential moderate density. Conditional zoning, RMOD-CZ, a plan development permit, PDS 1061, and a tentative tract map, TT 6019, to subdivide and construct 10 single-family residents on a 1.97-acre parcel located at the southwest corner of Callahan Avenue and Alviso Street. The intent to adopt the mitigated negative declaration, introduction of an ordinance, and adoption of a resolution. Stratus Perils and I believe Jennifer Santos are here for this presentation. Mr. Mayor, please begin the public hearing.
We have a reading of the resolution.
Resolution number 2020-01, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving general plan amendment number GPA-100, plant development permit number PDS-1061, and tentative tract map number TT6019, and adopting the mitigated negative declaration to amend the land use designation and subdivide and construct 10 single-family residences on a 1.97-acre parcel located at the southwest corner of Callahan Avenue and Alviso Street.
Okay, we also need to read the ordinance.
Ordinance number 1306, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving zone change number ZS739 to change the zoning designation from industrial to residential moderate density, conditional zoning, RMODCZ, and adopting mitigated negative declaration for a 1.97-acre parcel located on the southwest corner of Callahan Avenue and Alviso Street.
Okay, are there any ex parte communications to report?
Mr. Mayor, again, I met with the developer on this project a couple of times, I believe, so I'm very familiar with it.
Okay. Any others? No? No, Dini? Okay. May we have an oral report? Mr. Peros again.
Yes, sir. Thank
Welcome
you.
back.
Thank you, Mayor Mashburn. Good evening again, City Council members. The applicant, Forefront Development Incorporation, the applicant, proposes to construct 10 detached single-family residences on a vacant 1.97-acre site located at the southwest corner of Callahan and Alviso Street. The site is surrounded by single-family homes to the north and to the east, by a recreational vehicle storage facility is located to the west, and the Southern Pacific Railroad is to the south with commercial uses beyond. Access to the site occurs from the southwest corner of Callahan and Alviso Street and onto a shared private driveway. This project site is again currently vacant, like the project before. It is a difficult site to develop. There have been previous attempts to do other development on this site, including with the site's current light industrial designation for a recreational storage facility of vehicles. However, that was not warmly received by some of the area residents, and other applications have been tried, including multifamily residential. This project was originally presented to, or most recently presented to the City Council on January 23rd, 2017 as part of a general plan pre-screening request, at which time the City Council did support the request for a project of this type. It was done by a different applicant. And since that time, the project sold, and this current applicant took over that application. The applicant has been submitted. There's been a lot of challenges to develop the site with infrastructure, public works planning, getting the property drainage to work out. But after a lot of effort, we finally achieved a design that we were able to deem complete. Once we deemed it complete, we took it to the neighborhood council, which they supported the concept of the project. It went to the Planning Commission 2 times, first on September 4th and then on November 20th. And what happened in between there was the Planning Commission asked for the project to have the design modified. The home that you see there was eventually what was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. Where we started off wasn't quite as cute as that. And so through the Planning Commission's effort, I think they really encouraged the applicant to raise the bar on the development. I think the applicant did a better job in his resubmittal. At the November 20th meeting, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the project, and that brings us here tonight. Jennifer Santos, Senior Planner, will be making the rest of the staff presentation. Jennifer?
Good evening. The site's general plan designation is industrial, and the zoning is light industrial. The proposed designation of residential moderate would allow the construction of the 10 single-family homes, and would be the minimum allowed number under the proposed designation. At the November 20th Planning Commission meeting, they recommended to include a conditional zoning designation with the zone change to limit the site to only 10 single-family homes. Based on the findings referenced in Exhibit 2 of the staff report, the general plan amendment and zone change would be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood to the north and the east. All the proposed residences will be single-story that range around 1,900 square feet, and the lot sizes that range from 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. As mentioned, the development would also provide a private recreational area at the west of the site that will provide a play area, barbecues, and bench seating. All on-site common areas, including the detention basin, the roadway, sidewalk, and common landscaping, will be maintained by the homeowners association. All the homes will have a 2-car garage with 3 bedrooms and 3.5 baths. They will also provide an open concept for the kitchen and living room and dining room area. There are 5 different elevation styles for the homes that include gable-style roofing, stucco walls that are consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. Some of the architectural elements include stacked stone, stucco band colors on all 3 sides that match the front detailing of the stacked stone, door and window surrounds, accented entry doors, shutters, and clear-story windows. The Planning Commission recommended adding a condition to require tile roofing on all the homes. The Planning Commission felt that the tile roofing would further enhance the aesthetics of the development. The following slides provide a few examples of the elevations, which can be found in Exhibit 1 of the staff report. This plan here shows the enhanced entry and the clear-story windows with the stone detailing on the front. The contrasting stucco border will carry along all 3 sides on the sides and the rear elevations. Additionally, each home will have a fireplace and bay windows. This is another plan that includes a vertical siding with stacked stone in the enhanced entry. And again, it will have the contrasting stucco band along all 3 sides of the home. The landscaping for the site will consist of drought-tolerant landscaping. There will be a landscape planter along the northern portion of the property that will be planted with trees, and will also provide a buffer for the rear yards of the existing homes to the north. The provided recreational area is again over here to the west that will provide a buffer from the existing RV storage facility. Based on the findings of the staff report, the following alternatives are available to City Council. The Planning Commission recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance and adopt the project's resolution. This concludes staff's presentation. We are available for any questions.
All right, questions of staff? Yes.
I'm trying to understand, this is requiring a moderate residential density, is that correct?
Correct.
And for moderate density, it would be a minimum of 10 units. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how many, if this is zone moderate, how many total units could theoretically you place on that?
I believe it was up to 24 units,
Up to 24 units?
which would be a multifamily.
Okay. And is there a way of restricting that in such a way that it is, if this site were to be sold and we would rezone it as we did, that it could be maintained at 10 units?
So so as part of the zone change, to change the zoning to our residential moderate, there's a conditional zoning that will limit the site to only 10 single-family homes.
So it's the conditional zoning that makes
Right.
that happen? Okay. Okay, thank you. And just out of curiosity, if we were not to approve this and it were to stay light industrial, how is the only way really to access it is through residents, is through Callahan, correct? There's really no other way to access?
Yes, because you have a private property owner to the west, and they would have to grant access through their site.
And right now, there's not gate or anything.
No.
They'd have to, okay.
So the only real way is through the neighborhood into that area. And there was another approval for RV storage facility at the site. However, a lot of the neighbors had concerns with it, so that's what brought us here today.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's fine. No questions, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. Other questions? Okay.
Yeah. May I ask a question? Just one question. I'm curious, it's, all the units are 3-bedroom, 3.5 baths?
Yes.
Was there any specific reason? I mean, some people do fewer baths, some more bedrooms, or this, when I heard that, I almost thought, wow, gosh, this would be great to go in with 2 of the roommates, and we'd each have our own, common space area and bathroom. Is there any particular reason, or?
That's what the property owner or applicant was proposing. They felt it was the most marketable project for them.
Okay, and I saw the parking garage, and so there's room for how many parking?
So you can
spaces?
fit two cars in the garage and then 2 cars on the driveway, so
Okay.
total 4.
Thank you.
Anyone in city council chambers wishing to be heard on this matter? Any blue cards?
We have one speaker card, Mayor.
Sure.
Elizabeth Jones.
Oh, with the applicant first.
Oh, thank you. Elizabeth, can we trouble you to wait until the applicant speaks? My fault.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Applicant.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and dear council member. Well, it's been a long journey for us here, all the way to this point, and I'm glad that we are at this point, and we have gone through a few reviews with the help of Stratus and Jennifer. We are where we are today, and I appreciate all the help that they gave us along the way. One of the points I just wanted to bring up, in the last meeting, it was our understanding that the roof to be the 50 years shingle roof, which is a better roof for the complex, and it is within the texture of the neighborhood, and it is also a saving that we can pass on to the buyers there. And where there has been a lot of challenges as far as the cost of the project. It's a very difficult site, as you may all know. We have a major dirt and removal and compaction and all of that. I just wanted to, if possible, I wanted you guys to consider that. That's the only point I have. If there is any question, I'll be happy to respond.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, now we'll have I think it was Elizabeth. While you're coming up, it's my policy, if you will, that whenever a public speaker comes up, we ask them to say their name and say where they live if they so desire. I got to stress that because I know some people really don't want to say where they live.
I don't mind.
And the other thing that everybody seems to want, I see it on Facebook a lot, is they want consistency. Well, I made a terrible, terrible boo-boo. The earlier public hearing, I forgot to ask the people their name and where they lived. So I apologize for that mistake, and I'll ask you your name, and if you so desire, tell us where you live.
Sure. My name's Elizabeth Jones, and I've lived in Simi since I was an infant, so I've been here a long time. Needless to say, I do disagree with all the development and all the homes and apartments being crammed into all our open space because I've been here for 56 years. I remember the hills that were closer than they are now, and I remember the open space. So, and I do live at 1576 Graham Street, which is the second house in from that curve. So I am against this project. I have a street running behind my backyard. I will. And as they just stated, 2 cars in the driveway and 2 cars in the garage, that's 40 cars driving right behind my backyard. I don't have any privacy. I won't in my backyard. Everyone else gets privacy in their backyard. I will have cars right behind my wooden fence with a wrought iron gate. And I will have street lights. If I noticed on the blueprint, there were, how many street lights per the 6 houses?
We'll answer all the questions for you.
Okay. And the sounds. And as I understand it, the owner does not want to build a brick wall. If this project moves forward, I would recommend that he be required to build a brick wall so that I at least can have some privacy and sound buffer, perhaps, as opposed to just, like I said, I have a wooden fence and a wrought iron gate that leads to that open field. I do have some concerns if the project moves forward. Will steps be taken to control the pests, which will most assuredly come to my backyard? Gophers, rats, mice, insects. And I have other concerns that where my house is, the dirt comes up on a rise where boys have built dirt bike hills, you know, to jump. So dirt has been pushed against my wooden fence. And in fact, one of my fences is falling down and I've had to tether it because of a shrubbery that did not get taken down. My children and I took it down. The open field part has pushed my fence, so it's falling. And I did call the city on it to get a hold of the owner, but that never took place. In any case, I have concerns that when they start moving the dirt, my fence may fall down, and I'd just like confirmation that the owner will repair/replace my fence should it fall down during this project, if this project goes forward. And I guess those are my main concerns, are the pests, the fence, and of course, I do disagree with this project 100% because I will have a fence behind in my backyard. So where's my privacy?
Thank you. Any others? No other blue cards?
No other speakers, Mayor.
Okay. Staff care to respond?
Sure. I'll let Jennifer respond to some of the questions raised by the speaker. I did want to let the audience know, we did look at several types of buildings on this property, including multifamily residential closer to those 24 units on the site that it could have had. It would have been, a couple of stories. What we were trying to encourage the applicant to do is be very compatible with existing single-family residential neighborhoods. So that's why we see these one-story homes out there. We also looked at, do we want the driveway on that side or the other side? The way it's proposed is really what meets the requirements of the fire department, the public works department, with the grading, the utilities, the drainage. It's really the best site that results in the with the 10 homes and the open space and the drainage facility on site. So we do feel that the single-story homes will preserve the privacy of the neighboring residences better than some of the other projects that we saw. And Jennifer, do you want to?
And as part of the project, if it's approved, that one of the conditions of approval will require the applicant to submit a photometric plan because the light standards that they're showing are just conceptual. There's guidelines where they cannot exceed 14 feet in height, and there has to be sharp cutoff to ensure that the light does not spill onto the adjacent properties. As for the construction, the applicant will be required to take measures to limit rodent control. And for the fencing, what I would do if her fence is damaged, I would hope the applicant is a good neighbor and helps to assist to repair it.
Could you repeat that? What'd you just say?
As for the fence, like if her fencing does become damaged, I would hope that the applicant would be a good neighbor and help to assist with repair of it. Also, at 1520 Grant, there is a condition that the Planning Commission requested that, which is this property right here. They had concerns about the privacy of the recreation area, and they asked that the applicant construct a block wall for the entire portion of the property. But we recommended to the entire portion of the property so that it isn't just a half block wall and half wood fencing, which is there currently. However, the applicant is requested not to construct a block wall for the entire portion of the property due to cost savings.
Okay. Does the applicant wish to be heard? Rebuttal?
Is there any question I'd be happy to answer? We have gone through this thing 3 times.
Sure.
Excuse me. Yep. Sorry again. We have gone through this a few times in the commission and all of that, and we are trying to keep the homes affordable and within the area, basically rates that the homes have now. Adding more and more to this, it makes it really unaffordable for just the neighborhood even. So we're trying to pass on a lot of this saving back, and that's why when I talk about the roof, as I mentioned, and I've done development before. We go through the whole process of mitigating any issue that comes up, and we'd be happy to, if it create any damage, for sure we'll take care of it. We have no problem with that as we go on. Okay. So if there's any question, I'll be happy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There was 3 parcels.
Okay. We're still in the public hearing portion, so now we have 3 cards?
We have 3.
Okay.
Abigail Alberon. Rebecca Alberon. All 3 have noted that they do not wish to speak.
Okay. And here's one more.
Kathy Layton.
Hi, my name is Kathy Layton. I'm a resident of Simi Valley. I remember being at the Planning Commission on this project, and I'm surprised that the neighbors weren't here. I don't live in this neighborhood, but there were concerns about placing the development, the homes, on the other side. At least there would be back-to-back homes and not have a street bumping up to the neighbor's backyard. There was also concerns about flooding, bad flooding. So I'm surprised that it came back almost exactly as it was presented to the Planning Commission. I oppose the project the way it's written, or the way it's designed. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, any other speakers? No one else wish to be heard? Okay. At this time, we'll close the public hearing portion and comments or questions from the council.
I do have a question for the applicant.
Okay.
If you'd like to. Thank you. One of your requests, or one of the Planning Commission's requests was for the tile roof.
Yes.
On the buildings. You're right in that it's not, the rest of the roofs in that area are not tile, so it would be different. But I did have a question, and I know they're more expensive, but if we were to grant the concession to not do a tile roof, would you be able to build a block wall that entire length? Would it offset the cost?
That's going to kill our project.
I'm sorry?
It's just going to kill the project. We can't, I mean, we have so many challenges out there that we're building a wall on the backside, 8 foot tall, all masonry. On the side, we did build the wall on the last part because there was a park there. And there was a concern there. We said, no problem, we will do that. On the rest of the project, I wouldn't be able to, I would not be able to answer that now.
Okay, so if we require the tile roof, is that also going to cancel the project?
No, not at all. The only thing I want you to keep in mind, tile roof has a 25 years of age, as you all may know. We are even proposed to put a 50 years guarantee on the type of, this is not just a regular shingle roof. They're upgraded, and what that does keeps the building lighter, is one of the issues, and it has a longer age. So, and it matched the neighborhood. That's all we're saying.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Should I stay up?
Okay, you might want to stay there
Sure.
just a second. Other questions?
Yes, if I may, Mayor. You mentioned that you wanted to make sure that you kept the cost down.
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is a question for you or for staff, but I know at a previous meeting we had mentioned, whether or not people would qualify for first-time homebuyer programs or FHA loans or something if they were, lower income or first-time homebuyers and wanted to get in. So I'm not sure if this is a question for you, the applicant, or a question, and I see Eric Chen is coming down here to answer this question, but that might, address some of the concerns in terms of wanting to pass on the savings.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping staff can answer the question.
My show with the council, city council.
So the question is, the applicant is concerned about the accessibility of, getting into these homes for people, and keeping the cost down. So would these homes qualify for FHA loans or for first-time homebuyer loan programs or anything of that nature so that, someone who needed help with down payment assistance or something like could get into this home?
Maybe. It depends on how much the home is priced at, and also the applicant, if they qualify for certain loans, and how, again, it refers back to how much the home will be priced at.
If I remember correctly, those special loans don't qualify for jumbo loans, which would be over close to $700,000.
No,
I don't
we're not going
think
to be anywhere close to.
Yeah, so as long as it's below approximately $700,000, I think it's $769 actually, then applicants could qualify if they're financially qualified for FHA and those loan programs through banking and other institutions.
That's actually one of the considerations we have here, and that's why we're trying to keep it in a way that is more affordable to the medium income families. And it's an elementary school close by, and this would be just a perfect area for medium income families is what we're looking at to do there.
Okay.
And
That's why I'm asking, because you're providing a service by, building these homes here, which we are, the entire region is in desperate need of housing, as well as our city. But, and the fact that they're one story is wonderful because it does align with the rest of the neighborhood. So there's, not really privacy issues in terms of someone in a two-story building looking down on you. And, with the size of the homes, some people were saying these are really small homes. I'm like, well, it's bigger than my house. And so it's not that small.
Yeah.
And single-story homes are something that we really need. We have a lot of aging residents who are looking to downsize to single-story homes, so I could see where there's, senior residents that would want to go to smaller homes and especially single-story homes. So, I want to thank you for bringing this project forward in that way. The tile roof, it does make it look pretty. It does make it look nicer. There is, always a concern with fires and things like that. And, whether or not the tile roof lasts longer than, the 50-story, I can see where, I don't know, I don't think it would push the cost beyond the $769,000,
definitely.
boundary.
So it would not. We are not even planning to get anywhere close to that. That's why I'm doing my best to keep the numbers in a way that is affordable to that neighborhood and is compatible with residents who live out there, and just provide a nice environment. That's what we're trying to do here. There. So we'll see.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilmember Judge, anything?
I have a couple of comments, but not a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will tell you that my initial reaction when I first saw this was I know we try to be very protective of our industrial space, and so my initial reaction was, wait, should we be careful? But as I looked, truly this is not reasonable to be used industrial, and I guess that my response, and I understand, Elizabeth, I'm hearing your concern. I suspect you'd prefer it to be residential than industrial actually used there, and so that this land is zoned to be used. But I think it makes sense to actually have it changed, to the zoning change for the purpose, because it does for the community. I also did drive this at 11:30 last night too, because I was curious to see this property. Big concrete blocks abutting it, and there was some rabbits jumping, and I was kind of tempted to go four-wheeling back there, but I want you to know that I did not do it, but I was tempted. But I could see that where it's located, that it was a beautiful, quiet neighborhood, and I could see where you'd want to maintain your peace and quiet there, but I could see that housing of this size and shape would fit in that area. My concern, of course, is that it not be twice as large or 2 stories high, et cetera. So thank you for planning it 1 story and putting in the clauses that don't allow it to be built, more units to be built. And so for those reasons, I do think it is actually good planning and it fits what's going on. I'm taking you at face value because I read through the reports that if you flip it, that really grading and with what the requirements are with fire and safety, et cetera, that the road needs to be where it is as opposed to flipped. I think that was, anyway, what the report said. So I just wanted to express that I do think it fits what's going on there and is good planning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing else? Okay. Interesting piece of land. I think, Mr. Peros, you said at one point, anything in Simi Valley is going to be not the norm based on what little land we do have, so everything's a challenge. And I remember this coming to the council quite a while back as a light industrial. That didn't work. I remember it coming as a RV parking. That didn't work. And housing is obviously a need here in our valley. If you look at, while looking at this, I kept thinking of I think it's Big Springs School that was taken down, and then they put the houses in up there. And so it was a newer style homes put right in the middle of older style homes. And if you go through there, it's quite nice. It adds to the neighborhood. So I have to say that I too question, but then I read about the Planning Commission and the work that staff has done and fire department, why it's laid out the way it is instead of back-to-back houses. It all starts making sense. So it's a matter of you give and take or don't have it at all. And then what do you get? An empty lot full of debris. And I don't think that's what's healthy. So anyway, a lot of work went into that, and I certainly appreciate the work that went into it. Okay. Looking for a motion.
Mayor, I move to introduce an ordinance approving zone change number ZS739 with conditional zoning, adopt a resolution approving general plan amendment number GPA 100, plan development permit number PDS 1061, and tentative track map number TT 6019, and adopt project's mitigated negative declaration.
Second.
Okay, we got to read the
sorry.
ordinance and the,
I just wanted to note that this will be as amended to include the condition that was in the attached supplemental report that the city manager Gabler mentioned earlier today.
okay. And what'd you say?
As amended.
I believe it was read.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
okay, we're good, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
A second. Call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously. Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 5. This is the time for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and information reports. Speakers will be called in the order which their card was submitted. Speakers have 3 minutes to speak. When the yellow light comes on, speakers have 30 seconds to conclude their comments. City Council members cannot respond to your questions during this time, however, may offer a response to the extent possible under Agenda Item 5A. Mayor, we have only one speaker card. Mr. Doug Bamforth.
Well, first, if your favorite team is the Tigers, you're winning. Okay. No, it's 28 LSU, 25 Clemson. Okay. Up to date.
Good in my house.
What I'd like to talk about is that CalPERS pension thing. First, I haven't done enough research, and I was just curious how we got this way in the first place. I'm not going to use a lot of time up. I'm just going to hit a few high points. And the other one is I understand that we pay this money to the state. Bad idea. They have railroads that don't go anywhere. They waste more money than anything, except the federal government that can print more. So anyway, I think that maybe we ought to start looking into maybe a little, because this is only going to cover the ones that we have now, not in the future, because as we do more hiring and stuff like that, we're going to increase those debts, I call them. And I hate debts. Like most people in my generation, we've worked all our lives. I started working when I was 14, and we've worked all the way through, and we watch our money. So maybe I saw a little bit about sales tax increase. I don't know if that would cover in the long run, but it might help cut it down enough. And also, of course, watching our budget very close. I think everybody knows that one. And my other comment is Fred Stratton, where are we now? Where is he now? We need him. He was the guru at finances. And anyway, that's it. And I'm a Simi Valley resident. Thank you.
So, council comments regarding the one statement.
Oh, I was just going to thank Mr. Bamforth for coming tonight.
I too want to thank you, Mr. Banforth, for coming in. Now, we will be, the pension issue will be coming back to City Council. I encourage you to come back when we address that issue and make sure that your opinion is known. And we're glad that you came here tonight. You've come to many meetings, so thank you. And in terms of the sales tax increase, you know, I have asked for that. And I believe it's one of the recommendations from the Budget Committee that we have yet to follow through on. So thank you for bringing that to light.
I'll come back to it no more.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 6, the consent calendar. And there are no, well, actually there are some resolutions. There are no resolutions for consideration. Apologize.
Okay.
I'd like to pull the first one.
Which one?
Number 1.
All right, we'll pull number 1. Shall we look at it first?
Yes, please. Part of the reason I think there's a typo on page 8 that needs to be changed. And then I probably I'm going to recuse myself from voting because I was not on the council at that time. But I was, interested enough, the discussion, I was part of this discussion because, this particular area of the minutes dealt with how you're going to hold the special election. But at the bottom paragraph on page 8, this is December 17th, there was a consensus of the City Council to set the following application criteria for candidates applying to fill the City Council vacancy. A resident of the city of Simi Valley must have been registered to vote in the November 2004 general election. I don't think it was supposed to be 2004. I suspect it was 2018 was intended there.
I think you're correct.
So I just would ask that,
So we can amend that.
and yeah, with that amendment, there's one little typo on the next page, but I don't think it matters.
Okay, so we'll amend
And since we're on action, page 9, allow staff to, in the middle of action under 8B, allowed staff to deduct hard costs, not COTS. But anyway, or hard cost, anyway. But that's minor. The content is understood. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
did you say
I am going to recuse myself just because I was not present for those discussions. So, please.
So we'll go ahead and vote on consent 1. We need a motion.
I move to approve consent item number 1.
Second.
Call for the vote. I think I pushed earlier or something.
You're good. You're good.
Oh, okay.
Motion passes with Councilmember Litzter voting no.
Abstaining.
Abstaining, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay, then 2 through 7.
I move to approve consent items 2 through 7.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is continued business, item 7A, second reading of ordinance number 1300, establishing a schedule of sanitation fees and charges and repealing ordinance number 1239. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Second reading ordinance number 1300, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley establishing a schedule of sanitation fees and charges and repealing ordinance number 1239. Staff is available for questions.
Anybody have questions of staff?
I have
Make
one
it-
question.
Okay.
Page 4, I wanted to understand why we're charging an annexation fee if we are the ones initiating the process. Maybe I missed it the first time around. I was just curious how that worked.
Mr. City Manager.
We wouldn't necessarily be, the property owner would be requesting annexation.
So that's at the property, but if the tables are turned and we, going forward, need to annex property, would people come, would areas that we are initiating the annexation,
We would not charge the fee.
we would not charge the
That's
fee?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it would only be if the applicant
If
is
the
requesting.
Okay, and that wasn't clear in the way it was laid out, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Elaine?
That is, I'm still going to vote the way I voted previously. Costs are expressed per month, but we are charging them annually, which I think is a bit just confusing, deceptive, but anyway.
Okay. Any other comments or a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 1300.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion passes with Councilmember Litzter voting no. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is continued business 7B, second reading of ordinance number 1303, approving city-initiated amendment to modify Chapter 8, Title I relating to receiverships. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Second reading ordinance number 1303, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving city-initiated Simi Valley Municipal Code text amendment to modify Chapter 8, Title I related to receiverships. Staff is available for questions.
Okay, comments?
Just one quick question.
Sure.
Just want to confirm that all three qualifications must be met before receivership is pursued. Is that, it's not just one of the,
Yes, there's a A, B, and C in the ordinance, and they all have to be met.
and the way it reads is they all have to be
Yes.
met? Okay.
Yeah, because it has an and after B and C, A, B, and C.
Okay, that's what I want to be sure. And then my question, is there any, in that process, I didn't read it there, is there any way that there can be an appeal at that point? It doesn't, I don't see that there's an appeal process written in. Is that something we should consider?
Well, by the time you get A, B, and C, they've gone through probably in most cases, unless it's an emergency type, more than a year of code enforcement with numerous office conferences and all that. And so the appeal that's left after all that would be, they can go to the court and say, no, don't do it. So they definitely get a hearing in court then, but this is
Okay, fair
long
enough.
after that procedure
Fair
has gone
enough.
through.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
May I ask a question, just a quick question, a clarification? On page 2, section 3, it says the city clerk shall cause this ordinance for summary hereof to be published in a newspaper of general circulation, published in the county of Ventura and circulated in the city. So with that, what newspapers would that? Would that be the Ventura County Star or the Acorn, or what newspaper would that be?
The Ventura County Star.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just make one comment, just because it's of interest? I just briefly, I attended with Councilmember Judge today, the Senior Council on Aging, and one of the women I sat next to came up to me afterwards and talked about a piece of property that she's had numerous problems with, and the city has investigated numerous. Anyway, she said, "Is there something you can do?" And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, tonight we're voting on receivership." But it was very interesting that she would come up to me with that express worry and problem of going on for years, and she said, "I will buy it if there's any." Anyway, I thought I would articulate that I see the wisdom that in having this tool, that it.
Yeah,
it is
this
valuable.
I don't think is going to be a very often occurring, and I've dealt, even prior to coming on the council as a firefighter, I've dealt with many properties that you just go, how in the world does this exist? And the reality is the homeowner is well protected on ownership. Okay, so we're looking for a motion.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1303.
Second?
Call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is continued business item 7C, second reading of ordinance number 1304, approving a change of zoning classification ZS743 and adopting the mitigated negative declaration for property located on the west side of Cunard Drive, approximately 250 feet south of Catherine Road. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Second reading, ordinance number 1304, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving a change of zoning classification ZS743 and adopting the mitigated negative declaration for property located on the west side of Cunard Drive, approximately 250 feet south of Catherine Road. Staff is available for questions.
Any questions to staff? Motion?
Move approval.
Second?
Vote? We just set a new record.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is continued business item 7D, second reading of ordinance number 1305, approving a change of second reading ordinance of 1305, approving a general plan amendment, GPA-104, to change the general plan land use designation from general commercial mixed use, a specific plan, SPS 31, to establish regulatory standards for the project. A zone change, ZS 744, to change the zoning designation from commercial plan development, CPD, to commercial plan development specific plan, CPD-SP. A plan development permit, PDS 1066, and tentative tract map, TT 6024, to subdivide and construct a mixed-use development consisting of 164 residences, open space areas, and 6,000 square feet of commercial space. A tentative parcel map, TPS 693, for financing purposes on a 12.3-acre parcel located at 3039 East Cochran Street. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Second reading ordinance 1305, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley for the approval of the specific plan number SPS 31 to establish regulatory standards for the project, zone change number ZS 744, approving a change to the zoning designation from commercial plan development CPD to commercial plan development specific plan CPD-SP, and the intent to approve the mitigated negative declaration for a 12.83-acre parcel located at 3039 East Cochran Street. Staff is available for questions.
Questions, staff? Okay, motion.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Call for the vote.
Goodbye Farmers Building.
Motion passes with Councilmember Lovenos voting no.
Just as a side note, Councilmember, and the applicant is in the back of the room. They intend to start tearing down that building within the next 2 weeks. So that should be starting to see some progress on the site.
Mayor, may I ask a question? Is there a mitigation plan that will be shared with regard to removal of asbestos to ensure safety of the neighbors?
The County of Ventura requires an asbestos evaluation of the building prior to it being taken down. So, and that all goes through the County of Ventura.
Okay, will we have access? I have had residents ask me about that.
We can probably get a copy of it. Tim, do you have a copy of the plan?
Not with me, but I can share it.
Yeah, we're more than happy to share that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, one more question. Besides the building being torn down, all the asbestos removed, where will it be removed to, the asbestos? Is that part of the plan as well?
It would go to a hazardous waste facility, a designated hazardous waste facility.
Okay, and transportation would occur through the city as well? Is that also in the plan?
It would be in the removal plan, yes.
Okay, yes, if we can get a copy of that, I would greatly appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is new business, item AA, consideration of a possible action regarding general plan and municipal code amendments to establish single-room occupancy SRO, housing unit land use policies, standards, and related requirements. And Stratus Peros is here for this presentation.
Mr. Stratus.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. At their October 28, 2019 meeting, the City Council requested that staff return with a follow-up on standards related to single-room occupancy or SRO housing units. Staff is providing this report for the City Council's review and requesting direction on whether to initiate a general plan and/or municipal code amendments to establish specific standards for the design, operation, and development of these SRO land uses. Lucy, can I have the next slide?
Yes.
So a little bit of background on how we got to where we're at. Around 2012, when the city was updating its general plan and its housing element, there was the California Government Code kicked in that local governments shall encourage various housing types, which include single-room occupancy units. So that was added to our general plan back in 2012. And the policy in the general plan states what you see there on the screen, that single-room occupancy units are typically small, usually around 203 to 350 square feet in area. They consist of one habitable room in a structure of other similar units, also known as a residential hotel. And those are historically what SROs were, former hotels that were converted into permanent housing. SROs have been around since the 1880s, dealing with the first industrial revolution for workforce housing, and they've had highs and lows in our American history during the Depression and World War II, when there's always a need for worker housing, and then we've seen a rebirth of them now during our current housing crisis. SROs, in SROs, residents typically share bathrooms and or kitchens, while some single-room occupancy units may include kitchenettes, bathrooms, or half baths. Next slide. So look, again, so after our general plan was adopted, then we amended our municipal code. And in the municipal code, which was adopted in 2014, the City Council adopted our current definition of our SRO, which is very flexible in general. It basically states what our general plan policy states, that SRO units may or may not have, need to have a bathroom, or they could have one common one or one within the unit, or a kitchen, one common one or one within the unit. We really didn't specify the size requirement. We said that they typically or generally that size range. And one of the things we limited SROs in the city are just to a couple of zones, our commercial plan development zones, or those zones with an MU or mixed use overlay. So there are very few areas of the city, and those are typically where our commercial shopping centers are located. Conditional use permits are required, so on a case-by-case basis, every SRO that would be brought forward in a public hearing, typically before the Planning Commission, would be evaluated for things that are not contained in the underlying zoning standards, things related to parking or security or on-site management. Contract planner Tom Priest is here today to kind of explore some of the current standards in our current code and some of the alternatives that we found in other municipalities.
Good evening. The staff researched single-family occupancy unit standards of local governments located in Ventura County and the general area, which are summarized in the staff report along with footnotes. The screen above shows the basic standards of the surveyed jurisdictions that had explicit standards for single-room occupancy units. Generally, when you look at the table, the habitable room floor area size ranged from 150 to 450 square feet, which is similar to the Simi Valley's flexible standard of about 200 to 350 square feet. Some had no standards. Several jurisdictions limited the unit's occupancy to 2 units or 2 persons, while others did not. A few jurisdictions required private kitchens and bathrooms in the units, and others were flexible or had no standard. Most jurisdictions had a parking standard of 1 space per unit. The city of Pasadena, if you look, had a lesser restriction of 1 space per 4 units. Most of the jurisdictions required a minimum amount of private, usable open space, either private, usable open space. The city of Camarillo actually went a little further than that and specified a minimum dimension for that of 10 feet on the first floor, which would be porches, and above that, above the first floor, would be 8 feet for balconies. The surveyed jurisdictions varied where single-room occupancy units could be located, either in commercial zones or in residential zones. Most jurisdictions required a discretionary conditional use permit or residential plan development permit to approve the units. The city of Moore Park allows them with a zoning clearance. In reviewing the single-room occupancy standards, the City Council could consider changing the current habitable room size policy to have a specific room size, a minimum of 200 square feet to 375 square feet maximum, or as directed. As shown in the screen above, a parking standard could require a minimum of 1 space per unit plus 1 guest parking space per 5 units, which would be similar to the residential developments for studios or seniors-only units in the city's mixed-use overlay zone, or as directed by the City Council tonight. The standards could require that each unit have a private kitchen and a bathroom in each unit, or a common area kitchen and secured bathroom suites on each floor be provided in the building. A standard could be created to require 1 or more laundry rooms to serve those units without a washer and dryer. Currently, there are no municipal code standards requiring any minimum amount of private or common open space amenities for single-room occupancies. A standard could require that a minimum 100 square feet of usable private open space be provided per unit as porches for first floor units, and balconies for units above the first floor, along with a minimum dimension of 7 feet in width or depth for porches or balconies. Also, a standard could require an indoor and outdoor common open space with amenities be provided at 100 square feet per unit. If the City Council finds it appropriate, the amendments could include other standards, such as a closet in each unit, a common area cleaning supply room or utility closet for each floor in the building, an on-site manager or office. For example, the City of Santa Rosa requires a manager's office for 10 or less units, or manager unit for more than 10 units. The standard could restrict tenancy to 30 days minimum to avoid short-term residency, or as directed. And staff recommends that the city council approve initiation of the amendments to establish additional policies, standards, or other requirements for single-room occupancy units as directed at tonight's meeting. This concludes the staff presentation, and we are available for questions.
Questions, staff? Go ahead.
Yes. I love the chart that you guys included. Thank you very much. But I was curious to know how many SROs exist in these other areas, in Camarillo, Moore Park, Thousand Oaks, Pasadena. How many SROs do they have?
That did not research how many they have currently.
It's been my experience that every city was adding SROs roughly around the same time, around 2012. I've spoken to other city planners and other jurisdictions, and they have yet to do one. It's something we see in some of the bigger cities, Santa Monica, downtown LA, but it hasn't really made its way out here in Ventura County from what I've observed.
Are there any at all in Ventura County?
The city's received one, which you'll be seeing at next week's city council meeting, but we've never done one before. And as far as I've talked to my other fellow planners, they have yet to do one.
And that SRO would not be subject to this, correct?
Correct. That's
okay. So
different.
I just want to make that clear.
Let me clarify what you just said, okay?
Yes.
I think she just asked you if the SRO that we're going to see at the next meeting falls under this. And
it would not. It's under the existing standards from at the time it was submitted. Any ordinance amendment we would consider tonight, it's probably going to take about 3 months to bring back to you for final approval once we go through neighborhood councils and planning
just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I can just add it, council would be limited in discussing next week's project. Just in the abstract is fine, but they're going to have their own hearing on that.
Yeah,
for that.
I understand.
May I ask a few more questions? Thank you. The area of the square footage, 200, 375, it, kind of seems random. I saw some of the proposals, and as I'm sitting in my mind trying to figure out how I would, because I have a brother who's an engineer and my dad's in construction. So, a 200 to 375 square foot unit with a full kitchen and a full bathroom, I don't know where you would sleep. And I've had sisters that have lived in Boston. I've lived on the East Coast, and I've been in those tiny studio apartments where you had to close the door to the bathroom in order to get to your bed or the kitchenette. It just seems that, some of the things that they're looking for, to me, it seemed more like this was, and it aligned with what was on here. This was more like a residential hotel. This is meant to be, for workforce housing. This is just a place that you put your head at night, and, you're looking for something that's low income, like you said, workforce housing. So for me, the open space of 100 square feet, I know that's one of the proposals, but that seems, and the 7-foot minimum size balcony, I know that's at the higher level, that Thousand Oaks proposed. Every other unit, every other city proposes, 10 square feet per unit, 50 square feet per unit, but 100 square feet per unit of, usable private open space seemed like a lot. In addition, the 110 square feet per unit of indoor and outdoor amenities or different amount as directed also seemed like a lot. Was there a reason why, or is that just a range, or because, it's as it's proposed, or it just seems like a lot and this would be cost prohibitive to developers? If I were a developer, I'd be like, wow, this is, I'm going to build a 200-foot unit and I'm going to have over 200 feet of common open space and usable private open space. That just seems like a waste of space.
Yeah. One thing I can say is a lot of cities adopted their ordinances at the same time, and they're all very, very similar to each other. Of course, you'll see variations, but a lot of them match. And you'll see some as small as 150 square feet, some as large as 400 square feet. And these are very similar to what a hotel room is. They're, most hotel rooms, not a deluxe suite or anything like that, but you're going to find something in around that 300 to 400 square foot range. But they lack a kitchen, obviously. One of the things when we go to a hotel, there's usually a lobby or a recreation room or a bar or outdoor pool or some sort of amenity, or maybe the hotel itself is located in an area that you want to walk to and visit somewhere else. So that's the concept with these SROs, that for workforce housing, to keep rents very, very low, the units are very, very low. But it's nice to have an amenity within the building or, on top of the roof or something like that where people can go to once they're in their confined space that maybe they want to go to a social group area within the building. Those were some of the concepts. And without a kind of a standard mandating it, you may get applicants that don't provide any amenity.
Well, I'm not suggesting not having any, but when I compare that to, and please let me know, City Attorney, if I can't talk about it, but since we already voted on the item 4A, the Patricia Development, the Vantage Apartments, is it okay if I address that?
Suppose that it is.
That one, when I looked at the square footage of the amenities that are being offered for those 54 units, it came out to 66 square feet per unit. And they have a lot of amenities. Everyone oohed and awed as we, mentally, as we saw the rooftop, the Amazon vault, the gym, all those things. So, and those are significantly larger than these SROs.
Oh.
So it seems, if they're going to have 66 square feet of the space per unit and have a gym and all those things, it seems, the intention of mandating 100 square feet up to 200 square feet, that's more than three times as much space as we're requiring of 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. It just seems like the intent there, if that would be the recommendation, would be to make it cost prohibitive and to ban anyone from being able to build SROs, because we're requiring more than 3 times as much as we're requiring of apartments as what's being offered. So that would seem to negate, the purpose of single residence occupancies, which is, again, to offer, affordable workforce housing. So, for that reason, it just seems really extreme for that to be so much, over 200 square feet, including a balcony. I didn't understand, I read the article forwards and backwards. I didn't see anything like, psychologically people in this kind of housing need a balcony, or even the unit that we saw before, it has the facade of a balcony, and it doesn't even necessarily have a balcony, it just looks like one. But this is requiring 100 square feet with a 7-foot balcony. Again, that just seems, and one of the issues that I read in the article was that people needed space. I don't know if people would want space outside unless they're going to put their bike there or something like that on the balcony. I can't see why you would need so much, private open space. If anything, it seemed like storage was more of an issue, like having a closet to keep your stuff, as opposed to having a 7-foot balcony.
Yeah, I would just simply add, we were asked tonight to bring this topic to you for discussion. We just want to kickstart the conversation by providing some comparison with other jurisdictions and what they do offer. Staff is not really specifying any of these numbers or any or one of these topics. If you wanted to go on things that we did not list tonight, you're welcome to consider that. But if the consensus of the council is to keep the current ordinance as is or tweak it, we can do anything. But nothing's etched in stone at this point.
And when you see the dashes, like for Thousand Oaks and Ventura County, does that mean that it's flexible, like every unit is taken, where it doesn't have a unit size for Thousand Oaks on the chart, or the maximum occupancy, or the private kitchen bathroom? That means that there's no requirements written into their ordinance, so it's... Correct.
Where it's blank on where there's just a dash, it means they didn't have anything in their current ordinance that filled in that category.
So if someone applied for an SRO in Thousand Oaks right now, there would be no requirements for the unit size of the maximum occupancy or the private kitchen and bathroom, and it would be whatever the City Council and Planning Commission decided?
Potentially. It looks like they have an RPD zoning permit standard there, and there may be other requirements elsewhere in their code. But yeah, it's on first research and what they provided us, that's all we could find.
Okay, and then I just have one more question. With regard to, again, providing that workforce housing, especially being able to attract businesses, because I know I've heard from many business people who said, I would love to bring my business to Simi Valley, but there's no place for my workers to afford to live. Is that one of the reasons why, it's part of the CPD and mixed use, so that, you can have, because I've seen this in other cities, at SCAD conferences, I've seen where other cities have created housing adjacent to industrial zones or adjacent to businesses, so that their workers have housing there and they don't even need a car because work is right there and they just drive there, they just walk there. So is that one of the reasons why we have it as part of CPD and mixed use?
Yeah, I think the goal there was that this would help with our infill development policies to promote higher density residential development, near transit routes, near shopping, for more walkability. That's always been part of it. There's no rule that it can only be in CPD zones. You see other cities do have them in residential zones, but that's what our city council chose to do back in 2012, 2014 when they were creating these rules in the first place.
Could that private open space count, like bike storage or scooter storage or skateboard storage, like things like that?
The private outdoor space, I mean, it's in the form of a patio or a balcony on the upper floors. Sometimes management companies don't want the surfboards or laundry or bikes or things like that visible from the street. It's really up for the on-site property management, but I guess if it was done in a way where it's not visible, things like that could be stored out there.
Okay. I'm just trying to think practically, where stuff would go. Thank you.
Mayor, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
I want to understand, if I read the report correctly, in order for these SRS to count towards arena numbers, they have to have a kitchen and a restroom. Is that correct? As opposed to a common ground?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we want these to be part of, I guess my question is, would a kitchenette qualify? And what is the definition of kitchenette versus a kitchen? And just so I understand the difference, is it lack of oven? Is that the difference?
No, I think it's just a compact nature of the kitchen. Of course, in some of like the apartment that we saw earlier tonight, the stainless steel appliances and everything else, it took up a larger area.
Sure.
A kitchenette in some studio apartments might fold behind an accordion door, and then you don't see it. It's just a way of having a very compact, efficient kitchen area to save space.
Gotcha. So if I realize the SRL can be anything from common restroom, kitchens, et cetera, to individual.
Yeah.
So if we want this to count towards arena numbers, it needs to have a kitchen and restroom facility.
Let me just say that's what the best research we had, because it seems as though when it was added in 2012 and from planning staff, there haven't been, no one knows of any right now currently that are in Ventura County. So now that the planning and density law has changed, these standards are catching up when they're trying to build them. So, yeah, we think so. We think that it wouldn't necessarily count for arena unless you add those amenities.
Okay. So I just want to clarify that, because I think as we have this conversation, that would be, to me, important that we include that so that it could be used for that. And also, I think personally, amenities, people like to have that in their own facility. Actually, I think what you're proposing has been excellent as far as amenities are a starting point for us to go from. And if I understand tonight's purpose, if we were to approve, for instance, this laundry list of potential items, what is the process is that we would codify this, and then I obviously realize we have to decide, do we want all these, and do we want them to stay the zoning as they currently are? We could change this, we could apply it to different zoning if we chose to, but that's not being recommended.
Yeah, what I would search for tonight, a consensus of the city council of these kind of menu of options here that's before you tonight. And if there's ones that are definitely yes, or some that you're not sure of, or definitely no, then we're going to take it through the public hearing process where we'll vet out the ordinance, maybe look at some other jurisdictions. We'll eventually go before the neighborhood councils to see what input we get from the community, to the planning commission, and ultimately back here. And we'll try to bring you the best ordinance that meets the overall consensus of this body.
Gotcha. Well, I just, for the record, want to say I appreciate the fact that you're suggesting a parking space per unit, and possibly one for 5, anyway, and the amenities of kitchen and restroom or bathroom facility.
If I could add one thing to that. A parking space is typically 9 feet by 18 feet, and then it needs 25 feet to back up. So if you look at that whole overall area, that's about almost 400 square feet, which is almost as large or larger than the SRO unit itself. So when you look at the area of land that it takes to park, it could almost double the lot size requirements.
Gotcha.
And so that's one of the challenges with parking. It consumes a large amount of area.
But it could be underneath, or
then that adds cost to the building and overall. But yeah, you're right. Parking can be provided in any similar way. But I always want people to realize how much area a parking space and the drive aisles does take up on a property. Sometimes 60% of our projects are dominated, like tonight's project, the apartment. If you saw it, it was about 40% building, 60%, almost 60%. Parking lot with, of course, with landscaping.
But to note also, because currently the SROs are allowed in a CPD zone, they will be likely located in shopping centers that may have available parking during the evening hours and things like that. So we could double up on the same parking that's available for a shopping center.
Through a
Things
shared
of that
parking
nature.
arrangement, we
Gotcha.
can achieve that.
Gotcha. And the one other question, and then I'll be done. I understand the discussion that Councilmember Levinos has as far as the outside balcony space, et cetera. Does this indicate then that every SRO has to have its own outside wall window? Is that then qualified? I mean, so you wouldn't have any interior SRO facilities?
Yeah, for life safety reasons, they would need for exiting and natural light and
Gotcha.
ventilation. Everything would have to have an entrance and an emergency entrance, and typically a window that's openable with all the minimum dimensions.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
May I comment?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for doing the setup the way you did. I do think we need to put some more rules or concerns into a new ordinance for the SROs, but I also don't want to condition them so that they can't happen. So if you can change to the next one that you had, where you showed what the other municipalities have. The one where it showed what your recommendations are, sorry.
It wasn't that one.
Okay, well, what I was looking for is, I guess, I'm in favor of parking, having some parking coverage for that. I know you said it does take up a lot of space. I would like to look at one parking space per unit. That would be kind of a draw. I don't know about the visitor one. If we, because of the excess parking, we can maybe get away with that. I do agree with the shared parking. That works very well. I had an office building up in the town center, and we had shared parking, so we were able to use the larger part. They were able to use ours during Christmas, so it really made a big difference. I would also like to see a kitchenette and a bathroom in each one. I have the smallest bathroom you've ever seen, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of room. My shower is about the size of a small closet. So something like that would not take up a lot of room in there. And I think it might, me personally, having your own private bathroom, to me, that's just a nice way of life. I think that would be something nice. The kitchenette, I didn't really have a concern whether a kitchenette or the shared kitchen, but if we want to get the arena numbers, I would prefer to go with the kitchenettes and maybe a shared kitchen per floor if they need a big one, something along those lines. I like the opportunity of a manager's office on the site, or an actual apartment or an actual room for the manager. I think depending on the size of the development is how I would kind of condition that, which is, I know one of them said they had just an office if it was under 10 units, and then an on-site if they were over 10 units. So that would be something we could look at. The outdoor space, the requirement, I kind of agree with Councilmember Luevanos. I don't know that we need that much, but I would like some, whether we do more common area, outdoor area space, or just ensure everyone has windows that open to free air, maybe those, what do we call them, the Juliet type balcony things. At least it gives you, how many times you stay in a hotel and you just want to open the window and you can't? I mean, so to me, I'm a fresh air person, so I would really like just have an opportunity to have some fresh air if I chose to. Those are pretty much the things I had concerns about, so I just kind of wanted to give them my ideas. So that's all for me.
Okay, I'd like to echo what she says. You can put a little mark next to your notes. And the comments, though, when we're talking about private space, outdoor space, is that what the term is? Mm-hmm. Okay. When you're talking about that's going to cost more and it costs, well, I was comparing in my mind to these apartments that we just approved. Okay, well, they have a lot more indoor space, so they don't need as much outdoor space. And that indoor space that they have costs a lot of money, I realize that. Okay, but if you have a small unit, let's say 350 square feet, you need a common area, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stratus, when you say private, it doesn't mean you're down there all by yourself. No. It means a community area where the community gets together. That's needed. So you can get out of this closet-sized dwelling you're in and go down and open up and have a community down there with your friends and what have you. And so I in no way see that as a restrictive on somehow adding so much cost. You got to have some space, or else, we could just pile a bunch of containers up and call it good. you know?
You hit the nail on the head. These types of units, you can only be in your little space for so long, even in a hotel. And then it's nice to be able to go down the lounge, the restaurant, the gym, the pool. You need somewhere to go. And having that communal shared space creates a sense of community. And I think it's very important. So some cities do mandated, others don't. But it's also, we talk about private space, and that's the porches and the balconies for each unit. That's give or take, but clearly the indoor common areas.
Yeah, but I don't see that breaking the bank. I mean, we don't even stay at motels that don't have decent downstairs community rooms, lobby, reading areas, and what have you. Then when it comes to parking, we're not San Francisco. And I'd like to say, none of us took a ferry here, none of us took the BART here. I wish we had, I really do, but we don't have it. So to build for something we don't currently have is getting the cart in front of the horse. Now, we can certainly start cutting back, I would think, but to say we're not going to have people driving I don't think that's realistic, because you just look at the way we are and where people work. It's not going to happen overnight. Hopefully it does happen, but we need parking. Maybe not as many. We don't need 2 parking places per unit and blah, blah, blah. I can see cutting back, but I cannot see that we're going to say, hey, everybody's going to ride the electric scooters to work in Canoga Park. I just don't think the pass could handle that kind of traffic. So I still believe that we have a need for parking places. Now, brilliant planning minds could probably say, okay, we can use these for parking places today, but as the need goes away, we'll convert them to whatever. You know, maybe there's something like that in there. But, and then the other thing I was concerned with this size is if you have whatever a good-sized hotel room is, let's say it's, hypothetically, say it's 350 square feet. Okay, then if we have a 600 or 700 square foot SRO, what you have is an apartment with no interior walls, and that's something to be aware of. So I think I see some of them have a restriction on how many people can live in them in each unit. Maybe size would do that without having a restriction on how many people, but it's something to be aware of. That's it from me. Mr. Judge. Yeah.
May I make a comment, Mayor? I noticed in the article that you sent, thank you for whoever published that or put that article in our staff report, that only less than 10% of the residents that were surveyed said that they were annoyed they didn't have their own private shower. So, it seems like the vast majority, over 90% of the residents in the SROs, were okay with just having, a toilet and not having a full bathroom. And there's also the possibility of having, some floors where you could have your own bathroom and kitchenette, and others where you just have a kitchenette and a toilet, and maybe you'd pay a little less because you would have a community shower that's locked and secured. I like that concept a lot. So it looks like that's what they also had in other SROs, that there was, maybe different floors with different types of SROs, and that's depending on what you're willing to pay and how much, you're willing to give up. But that seems like something that we, could be looking at pushing and promoting in terms of, attracting businesses to the city. And I think this is a great idea. I'm really excited about the SROs. Again, I agree with Councilwoman Kavanaugh. Having a window was one of the things that I saw in the article. I like to open the window and see the sun and smell the air. I just don't think a 7-foot balcony is I like the concept of a Julia balcony, something that's just me standing on the balcony, but not a 7-foot balcony. It just seems excessive. And again, to have 210 square feet is a lot when we have the other one, that had 66 square feet, and it seemed to have a lot of, amenities. It just seems that would be more aligned with what, the needs of the community. So for people who would be living in these SROs. But I'm excited about the prospect of this. It's very much needed, and it would very much boost our businesses. boost our commercial areas, and help our residents, our working residents.
Okay, so do you want us to vote to move forward on this, or
I think
just
we
bring
have- I think we
bring
have
you
enough direction.
ideas?
Yeah, I think we have
Does
enough
that give you the direction
Yeah,
you're
I think
looking for?
I heard a clear consensus here, starting with Councilmember Kavanaugh's comments and the concurrence across the board, and on all the comments that we heard here tonight. So what we'll do from here is take this direction and proceed with the public hearing outreach process, and we'll eventually be back here before the council with our
Next week.
proposed ordinance.
Next week? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is 8B, request for direction regarding future unscheduled City Council vacancies, and Samantha Argabright is here for this presentation.
Now I'm here. Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. At a previous City Council meeting, Councilmember Luevanos requested that the City Council consider creating a process to fill unscheduled City Council vacancies that may occur in the future. The report before you this evening outlines the options available to the City Council in filling unscheduled vacancies, which I will review briefly. Should the council wish to make it a policy to appoint someone to future unscheduled vacancies, this option may not be codified, but staff can return with a policy for the City Council's consideration at a future meeting. A sample policy from the City of Tracy is attached to your report. Should the City Council wish to codify by ordinance that unscheduled vacancies be filled by special election, staff can return with an ordinance for the Council's consideration at a future meeting. Page 3 of the staff report details what may be codified and the potential costs and required timing for a special election. Finally, the City Council may wish to defer to the Government Code, which outlines that should a vacancy occur in an elective office, the Council shall, within 60 days from the commencement of the vacancy, either fill the vacancy by appointment or call a special election to fill the vacancy. The Code further provides that if the Council calls a special election, the special election shall be held on the next regularly established election date, not less than 114 days from the call of the special election. A person elected to fill a vacancy holds the office for the unexpired term of the former incumbent. This section does not provide the City Council with the option to appoint a candidate to serve until the date of the special election. Most recently, when Councilmember Mashburn was elected to mayor, the City Council deferred to the Government Code and chose to fill the vacancy by appointment. The process used at that time is outlined in your report. This option provides the most flexibility to the City Council in filling an unscheduled vacancy. 6 of the 10 cities in Ventura County defer to the Government Code should an unscheduled City Council vacancy occur, and that is also detailed in your report. This concludes staff's report, and I am available for questions.
Questions to staff?
Yes. I noticed that in the chart that you provided on page 2, bless you, I don't know if you were sneezing or not, that there hadn't been, the last appointment previous to 2018 was 2004. So that was a 14-year, there were no other appointments in between that time, 14
That's
years.
correct.
So if there had been a special election, would there have been money somewhere in the budget for a special election? How do other cities handle financing special elections? And maybe I see Brian raising his hand.
Well, unless they cross over a budget year, you would have to get a special budget allocation from the council to take it out of fund balance.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you have a vacancy in, if an unscheduled vacancy, if it became available and you became aware of it in March, the election probably wouldn't happen until after July 1, and you could budget for it in that way. But if it's all within one fiscal year, then you would have to provide for a special allocation and take it out of fund balance.
Okay. My question for, hopefully you can answer this, is how many of the people that are appointed on this chart on page 2 later went on to become elected?
Councilmember Foster, Councilmember Soika, I know Davis. The others I would have to look up.
Yeah, the only one that I'm aware of that did not was Councilmember Piper, who took the position acknowledging he was not going to run for election.
Okay, so everyone else that's on that list, after they appointed, they were elected?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. My concern is, it seems like every time someone is appointed and then they get elected, it's like they didn't even have to, spend money on campaigning or reaching out to the community to get elected, because you already had that position. That's why I'm, advocating for the special election, like, as I have since I got elected, to fill that vacancy. It seems to me that that is the first way to ensure that, people have a say. When I brought up the issue and I talked to people in Moore Park and Thousand Oaks, they said, oh, we don't have to worry about it. It's already in the ordinance. We already have, a special election. And I said, what about costs? And, they said, well, it's not like it happens every day. So it's not like it's something that, if you have contingency kind of rainy day funds, and it's not something, and since, we hadn't had one for 14 years, it's not like we have it every year and we're spending this kind of money all the time. But it seems, to me, this is the kind of thing that we need in order to ensure that residents have a voice. And having an appointment takes away the voice of the people's choice. I don't know if that's any comments that you've heard, or, but I know that there were people, and I went back and looked at the notes, ironically, that were from December of last year that we just approved in this meeting, and there were people who advocated for special election because they wanted to be able to have that voice in terms of who they chose. And we see this pattern, as Mr. Gabler pointed out, that all but one of the people that were appointed went on to run for election and become elected. So we want to ensure that there is engagement between the people that are appointed and people having a choice of who they elect.
Any other comments?
I had a question.
Yes.
For Lonnie. Okay, so if we were to go, because I've always been an advocate of having a special election to fill council vacancies, ever since the day I was elected in 2010. I think I brought it up at my third meeting, and I was shot down. If we were to go with a four-person council for a period of time, say between November and March, or however long it would take to do a special election, like our thing we had tonight with the sanitation fee, you said that needed a 4/5 vote. So if we only had 4 people on the council, would that default to a 3/4 vote?
No, I believe it would be unanimous then.
Have to be unanimous?
Yeah, we researched if there was a member absent today, it would have to be still 4 for the sewer rate, for example.
So that's my only concern, is that I want to be able to do business. I don't want to have to be locked up for 6 or 7 months while we wait for a special election. But I agree with Councilmember Luevnos completely that we should have an ordinance that just goes straight to a special election.
Comments?
I have mixed feelings. I was appointed to the Park Board in 2010, and yes, I was reelected. But I also look at the part, if I hadn't done a good job, I wouldn't have been reelected. So, that's the people's voice, is also the vote in the ballot box, and that's where you can choose. That's one way of looking at it, the other way too. Special elections, it's the cost and the time frames. It limits us on how quickly it has to be done. So depending on when we had the opening, it says we have to have it within a certain amount of days. If we're doing it and it falls onto a regular election like in March or November, that's going to save us a lot of money. But if we have to do it just at large on our own, it's going to cost us more. I also am concerned about districts now. We're in districts, so if we appoint, it has to be somebody from that district is going to have to be appointed. The same thing if somebody runs for election, it's only going to be for that district. So that kind of brings up where the whole city doesn't get to vote either way, just that one district and or the council. So I really don't know for sure right now. I'm listening to what everyone's saying and kind of going with both ways. If we had the money all the time, a special election would probably be the way to go. But we don't always have that opportunity. But then again, it hasn't happened that often. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? I want to hear other people's thoughts too.
My thought is, in a perfect world, we'd always do an election. In a perfect world, I think in this last situation, we had a lot of comments from the residents, constituency, and they were on both sides. I couldn't tell you which way was most heavily weighted, but the bottom line is the council made a decision based on what the people were telling them and what the finances, what the budget was telling them. And so they did what they thought was best for the city, which is what we're supposed to do when we're up here. So while again, perfect world, always elect, give the vote to the people. I'm a little leery, I'm not a fan of districts. That takes votes away from people. And, but with that said, I would have to question, if I was in a district and that was the council member that was missing, would I want the council, the remaining council voting and selecting someone out of my district and me not having a say-so? So I think one of the questions to staff is there, it seems to me somewhere in the back of my mind, there was a way that cities could do their own election, and that potentially the districts made that easier, because you're not talking about a whole citywide election. You're only talking whatever district has the member missing. So that would be something I'd want to, if that didn't come back with some positive feedback, I would say for the time being, this council would do the right thing. And we have both choices. We can either elect or we could appoint.
I would say that I can definitely look into that further. However, you do have a point related to the district elections that it would be a smaller space, obviously, of an area that would need to be canvassed and where people could go to vote. If we do an election on our own, we need to do everything, including training poll workers, to staffing the polls, to also renting the voting machines. So there is that additional cost as well. I know that when the city of Thousand Oaks had looked at it, it was close to $1 million, but that was, I believe, a citywide election. I don't believe that was a district election.
Yeah, that's, like I say, I don't know if anybody here was at those meetings where we heard other cities that were going through this, and it seemed like one of the cities said that they did their own elections, but I have no idea what they paid.
There was, I'm sorry, Mr. City Manager.
I was just saying, I believe Oxnard
Yes.
went through a special election process because they weren't able to coordinate with the city of Oxnard, so they had to contract with a separate firm that's what they did. However, my belief is that firm is now out of business.
Correct.
So they are no longer available. I will note that the estimate that's in the staff report, the $253,000, is a number provided on a citywide basis. So as you go to an election at a district level, it's going to be a much smaller number.
I'd like to just say something. It's interesting, this issue, obviously, I was the beneficiary of the decision that was made, and I'm very thankful to all of you that allowed that to happen. I actually asked Mr. Attorney Eldridge whether I should recuse myself from this discussion, because I thought, obviously, I was the recipient of an appointment, and his response was that, no, you are now a council member, and so he was adamant that I had the right to say something. So I just want you to know we had this discussion. And so first of all, I just want to say thank you, because I recognize this is unusual, that it's been a few years since you've had to do this. I guess I wanted to resonate with what the mayor just mentioned. I do think that the city council, every circumstance is different. And different causes that bring about the need for a special election, whether it's a resignation, whether it is taking a new office, or there's various reasons as you look through the list of why that we have had to assign or appoint or put someone else in office. It's varied, and the time frame has varied. If I understand correctly, maybe this is a question, if we defer to government code, which is what we did in this last time, I recognize there's some discussion that needs to happen, but it does give you the option of pursuing both.
Correct.
You could either appoint, you could either choose to do an election, and I concur the election, absolutely, you want the voice of the people. As I look at the chart of who's done what, or who has what, if I read this correctly, Camarillo, Fillmore, Santa Paula, Oxnard, Port Hueneme, Ventura, Ojai, basically, most of the cities, with the exception of Moore Park and Thousand Oaks, allow themselves the opportunity to make that choice either way. If I'm reading that correctly?
That is correct. The city of Ventura, actually by their charter, does say appointment or special election. However, there would be no special election if the vacancy occurs less than 8 months before an election. Then they would wait for that election.
Gotcha.
But yes, you are correct. The rest of the cities do defer to the government code to have that flexibility at the time of the vacancy.
Gotcha. So I just wanted to point that out, that obviously I'm a beneficiary of the decision that was made, so I'm very, very forthright about that. But I see that this, if we can defer to government code as we've done in the past, we still have both options. And generally, it would probably should be a special election, but we have that opportunity if we stick with the government code selection.
Yeah, I think that we were focused on an election, and that the word came out that the cost, and I think what city manager just quoted, that 253 or something was the deciding factor on why we decided to go with a appointment rather than the election. Now, if times were better, we'd probably jump on the election. That's the right thing to do if possible.
Mr. Mayor, and specifically in the case of the vacancy that was created when you were selected for mayor, your position was voted at large. Therefore, it was that $253,000 cost should we have gone to a special election, because that would have been a citywide election, because your office was taken initially by an at-large election.
Okay, that makes sense. See the responsibility you have?
I'm trying to feel responsible.
May I make a
in regards to your comments, too, I like the fact that if we do defer to the government code, because like I said, I had mixed reactions, I think, depending on the situation. I also like the fact that Ventura did put a limit. So that would even be something that could be under discussion. I mean, if we have an opening for 6 months, do you really want to do an appointment or an election for that time frame? So that would give us a little bit of flexibility on that also.
We may need to
That's the
look
point.
into that because they are a charter city.
Okay.
So they
We
have
may
different
not,
rules
we
that
may not
apply
have
to
that.
them.
That was one of the few advantages of a charter city.
Okay, so we would have to defer to the government code timeframes. Okay, thank you.
Back to Judge, let's be a charter city.
Moving forward, assuming there's no repeal of the California Voting Rights Act, because we have district elections and we have codified that, then the cost would not be, unless it was, and this is talking about city council, not the mayor, correct? So any other vacancy that would be filled would be less than that because it would not be a citywide. It'd be a district election, so it would be less than that.
Yeah, we
Is
said
that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. And, in speaking to, and I have spoken to, council members and, the mayors from Moore Park and from Thousand Oaks, and, when asked, present and past, why did you choose this? And they said, because otherwise, every time we needed a special election, which doesn't happen often, we would be looking at the cost factor as opposed to the democracy factor and ensuring that, people have a voice and people have a say. And so in order to take that factor out, because otherwise that will always be the factor. The financial factor will always be the deciding component as opposed to, do we want people to have a voice? Do we want people to have a say? And who is filling this position? And so, in terms of the options that are here on page 3, the second option where people, have to bear a specified number of verified signatures, I think that's a good, you should have to get, 20, 25, 30, whatever the amount of signatures are, and then file. That's the, I think there should be, something that they should have to do. But I think the reason why we make these policy choices is so that we don't have to sit there and decide, because I recall when we were in the position where there were only 4 of us, we felt very rushed and pressured, to make a decision because we had, a certain number of days to get it done. And so if it's codified, then the decision's already made and the, financial factors is taking out. And again, it had been 14 years since, we had a vacancy previous to that. So it's not something that happens every day or commonly. So, those are the reasons and the factors, that I think we should all consider in allowing our residents to have a voice, to have a say.
And I just have a concern about tying the hands of all future council members also, which could, I know you try not to do that because you don't know what the situation is going to be. I think I'm leaning more towards leaving it the way it is because we do have a choice. If we change it, we don't have a choice. It has to go one way or the other. By leaving it to defer to government code, we can take the districting, yes, cost will be a lot less, so I think that will help us in that way if we want to go to special election. Depending on when the next election is, do we have to pay for it ourselves? Are we able to piggyback? I think some of those things, or do we want to just leave it open if it's a short enough time and not even go through the cost? So I think I'm kind of leaning towards leaving it to defer to the government code.
Yeah, I'll support you on that. We have the government code, and it happens so rarely that, and then with this last time when it did happen, I'm convinced that we went out to the people.
Yes, I move that that we pass an ordinance that a special election be held to fill an unscheduled vacancy of the city council when petitions bearing a specified number of verified signatures are filed, and the special election shall be on the next regularly established election date not less than 114 days from the filing of the petition. In this case, a governing body that has enacted such an ordinance may also call a special election without waiting for the filing of a petition.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
So just to be clear, I want to understand these. The motion that you made would be selecting that the ordinance would call for a special election only when petitions bearing a specified number of verified signatures are filed?
Yes, like when you run for election, you have to have turning 25 signatures or 30 signatures.
This is actually related to the people calling for the special election, rather than...
I think you want to have a special election anytime there's an unscheduled vacancy.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So that would be the first bullet point under option 2.
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay, ready? Call for the vote.
Motion.
Okay, it came up 3 noes and 2 yeses.
Yes.
Oh, did it?
Me is yes, I voted no.
Okay.
Mike, are you and I in the,
Let's-
maybe the lineups
Why
from
don't we
where
do
we were
a,
before?
yeah, why don't we do a voice vote?
Change the button.
Because we changed the chair.
I voted yes.
Why don't we do a voice vote?
Okay, voice vote. Voice vote.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
No.
Councilmember Litzter?
No.
Councilmember Luevanos?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge?
Yes.
And Mayor Mashburn?
No.
Motion fails. 3-2 vote.
We have another vote on Mike.
I know.
To keep it as
You have to get that checked out.
So if you need nothing, you keep it as it is. So you're done. You can be done.
Okay.
Yep. So with that vote, we will leave it as it is.
Which means it
Defer
reverts
to the
reverts to government code.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're still not, it gives us one decision. It's not we're making up everything. It's government code.
Yeah, it's the standard set of options.
Okay. Ready, Lucy?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is 9A, City Council member reports.
Okay, Councilmember Litzter.
Thank you. This was certainly a busy holiday season, and I hope everyone had lovely festivities, but as it meant, I don't feel like I did as much city business as I maybe should have liked. So I'll just reference a few things. Friday, December 13th, I attended the chamber breakfast where there was a changing of the guard, and I want to commend the those who have done so much for our Chamber of Commerce, and Brian, who's taking new responsibilities. On Monday, December 16th, I did attend the Adjustments Family Services grand opening, their Simi Valley office, and I do think it's a good service that we have in our community that provides counseling and needed services for those who are trying to overcome substance issues, and so I appreciate them in our community. December 17th was a lovely city department gathering, and so I appreciate all that the city does and those who put that together. On December 18th, Wednesday, I did attend the swearing-in ceremony promotion for Officer Allegra, who is now no longer with K-9 unit, but has been promoted, and sergeant, I believe. And so it was good to see that happen. I will tell you, Christmas was in the middle of that, but I did go to Utah twice to attend weddings that back and forth, and so really I wasn't here as much as I would like to state. I will say that on Wednesday, January the 8th, we did have a special meeting to discuss and interview candidates for our city manager, and I would like to congratulate and compliment Brian Gabler on being selected as our city manager. I guess that's pending contract negotiations, but congratulations. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Luevanos.
On Thursday, December 12th, I attended a Posadas event that the Chamber of Commerce had, multicultural event. Always happy to support our local cultural dance groups like Baile Folclórico Silvito Linda and our local businesses who sponsored the event and were able to acknowledge that cultural activity, so that was wonderful. I also attended the Ventura County Civic Alliance reception in Camarillo and connected with some of our partners in the region on Tuesday, December 17th. I attended the Youth Council meeting. On Saturday, December 21st, Troop 689 had 2 Eagle Scouts. They had an Eagle Scout ceremony for Eagle Scout Jack and Ben. Congratulations to Eagle Scout Jack and Eagle Scout Ben. They both did some amazing projects. Ben's project was completing a trailhead and marking the trail, which helped the Parks and Rec. And Jack's project was helping St. Peter Claver build a fence for their community garden. So I'm always proud of our scouts, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and all the work that they do in our community. On Tuesday, January 7th, I attended the Simi Valley Youth Council meeting. On Thursday, January 9th, I attended the Clean Power Alliance Board of Directors meeting. They did talk about subsidies. They are going to have a program for people who want to opt into the 100% green energy who are low income. They will be getting a 20% discount. So for those people who are low income and they want to be environmentally conscious and they want to have opt into 100% renewable energy, they will be getting a 20% discount. So if you're low income and you say it's too expensive, I can't afford it, then the subsidies are coming to the Clean Power Alliance. So I'm really excited about that. I also attended the VCOG meeting where they talked about countywide hemp ordinances and setbacks that they're going to have due to the issues that they're having with the smells from the hemp. And they also talked about the regional housing issues and some legislation that's coming statewide. And I saw that, glad to see that at this meeting we're addressing some of those housing issues through proposed ordinances and development. And that is my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Judge. Oops, Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you. It was a lot of time, and I don't seem to have gotten a lot done. I was not able to make the city manager's department potluck, but I did drop off some little treats from everybody from the council for the employees. I then got sick the rest of that week, so I was out for about 5 days. But when I did come up from that, I was able to do my best to shop Simi. for Christmas. I mean, I try and do that as much as possible, and I know a lot of people do, and every little bit helps, especially our small business people. I did want to wish Janine Holt a happy retirement. Sorry, Ron, you lost her, but Janine was here, what, how many years? 40?
40 plus.
40 plus years. I know, she did a great job. So we went to high school together too. So she is a Highlander. Go Royal.
How many years?
She was a year behind me, so she's a year younger. I wanted to wish everybody, I did not have EDC, did not have a December meeting. They canceled that. That's one of the committees I sit on. And the animal shelter doesn't have anything in December either. So I did want to wish everyone a happy, happy New Year. I hope you enjoyed your holidays with your family. I was very lucky. My entire family was here. My nephew, who's currently Staff Sergeant in the Army, was able to come home for a few days. So that kind of made our Christmas very special. And the last thing was we did have a special meeting, and I also would like to congratulate Mr. Brian Gabler on being appointed as our new city manager pending salary negotiations. But I'm very excited to see what the future holds for us. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have a long calendar, unfortunately, due to an injury that occurred during the holidays. I wasn't able to get out as much as I would like to. I do want to wish, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah and a Happy Kwanzaa. And I also hope that everybody has a safe, prosperous, and healthy New Year. Other than that, I did attend VCTC last Friday. There was some talk there. We had an informal, a very informative presentation by Metrolink, which I found interesting because they talked for the first time I'd heard about double tracking our city. So that is something that will be coming back to our city in the future. We were talking earlier about how we don't have many options as far as public transportation. This could be one. Double tracking the city means trains can go in both directions, not at the same time, but allows trains to pass. So it could be pluses, minuses. I live near the railroad tracks, so I'm not sure it's going to be much of a plus for me. But it's progress. And also along with that comes the silent crossings, which I really like, because if we have the silent crossings, we have no train horns, and we have no train horns, life is much better in Simi Valley. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. Myself, on Friday, December 13th, I attended the International Friendship Center annual Christmas banquet along with Mayor Pro Tem Judge. And on that same day, earlier in the day, I attended the Islamic services as their guest at the mosque on Township Avenue. That was a great event. And let's see, let me get to the important stuff. On Wednesday, December 18th, we had the Simi Valley Arts Commission meeting, and just like to report out that the Arts Cultural Arts Center is doing much better and is moving forward, and they're having multiple shows that are being sold out, and things are going very well over there, and seeing a vast improvement. So all I can do is tell you better buy your tickets early, because they are selling out of an awful lot of their programs, and it's very worthwhile to go take a look at what they're up to. On the 19th, went to the Simi Valley Chambers Tourism Alliance, and most I can report back to you on that is I think I sent to the council, I'm not sure, I think I sent you the budget and what have you, but end result is they're very active in doing the film committee and reaching out and producing a film catalog that will show everybody what's available and all the different vendors that are here in the city that could help anybody filming in our city on that exact day. So it's just a guide, but it's very good. And the city is doing an excellent job of getting the permits out. I mean, there's lots of permits being written, and it's on a regular basis, a timely basis, with little or no complaints coming in about the permit process here at the city. So that's good. On Friday, January 3rd, I went to the County of Ventura committee meeting. It's the city selection committees, and I could report back to you that the Association of Water Agencies appointed Johnny Johnston out of the Ojai area as the member, and Laura Hernandez as the alternate, and those two were currently on the committee and asked to be continued on, so that was an easy one. Okay, Fox Canyon Management, I'm sure you've all heard a little bit about that, and I thought there would be a question on why we're not considered as a committee member, and I'll read this to you. The city member on the agency board of directors is chosen by members of the city selection committee from the cities that lie at least in part within the territory of the agency, i.e. the cities of Camarillo, Moore Park, Oxnard, Port Hueneme, and Ventura. And so the individual, Tony Tremblay from Camarillo, was appointed, and Bert Perello is the alternate out of Oxnard, I think is where Bert is from. And then the local area agency formation commission, Janice Parvin was the regular appointment, and Claudia Vil de la Pena is the alternate, and they too had both been on that committee and asked to remain on it. And so if you got two people working together and liking it and doing a good job, we felt that we should vote them back in, and that's what happened. On Monday, January 6th, Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Judge, and we approved a request to do, for the city to do a grant submittal to the, was that a state or federal? State grant. And so hopefully that'll send some funds our way for other housing issues that they would like to address. On Friday, January 10th, just recently, I went to the Caneo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors 11th Annual Awards and Installation. I'd like to say that great organization, very involved in housing, very involved in economic development, and a very good resource for finding information regarding that. We did meet with them, close to a year ago, and with their government affairs people, and they have an awful lot of information, and I expressed to them at this meeting that I would like to step up the relationship and be able to share more information with them regarding housing and housing issues in our district. And with that, Happy New Year to everybody, and congratulations to, how would you word that, City Manager-elect Brian Gabler.
Official to be.
Looking forward to working into the future with you. Thank you. Okay, this time, listen to requests for future city council agenda items.
Mayor, I'd like to request that council consider aligning neighborhood councils with the new voting districts. We had a couple residents mention several times when we talked about developments that this was a development that was happening in their voting districts. So I think it would behoove us as a city council to align neighborhood councils with the voting districts to reduce confusion and to make sure that we have a fully transparent and accountable system for our residents to participate in our local government.
So we've scheduled that discussion to come to the city council next month in February.
Wonderful.
Couldn't we, it is on the schedule?
Yes.
It's on the schedule because the way it was worded is that she wants to do it and align it, which is a decision where I would rather see it be, let's discuss how we're going to do it.
Correct. Staff is drafting a report to come to the council in February for you to consider the options and provide direction to staff.
Yeah, I was just giving context of the residents' comments. Is there any possible way that we can get, one of the board meetings that I was at, they kind of gave us an overview for like the next 4 months, like this is what's coming up, and, expect us to come up in February, March, April, May, so that we could kind of have a better overview, a little more heads up. Is that possible at all?
Sometimes I don't even know they're coming up until the next meeting, but we'll do our best to give advance
Because
notice.
I had no idea this was coming up in February, and I wouldn't have asked for it if I
Sure.
had known.
No problem. Yep.
I do have one possible item. Today at the Council on Aging meeting, there was a presentation by the water rates that we're going to be discussing. A gentleman afterwards came up to me and asked about whether we have built into it low-income relief or fixed-income relief. Is there some kind of mechanism in place, or can we look at some mechanism in place that exempts from increases or might subsidize? I don't believe the city currently has a subsidy for water rates, or do they? Maybe I'm misinformed.
We currently don't, and you cannot subsidize rates with money that is collected from other ratepayers, so it would have to be coming from another funding source. I know it's part of the discussion, Ron, if I remember right, of the water rates that is coming back to the council on the 27th. So we'll have that in the discussion, whether to have that discount rate for seniors in the rate. We would have to base it, not to get too far in advance, we'd have to base it upon another revenue source of the water agency in order to provide those discounts.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Nothing? All right. Okay. All right, we're ready to adjourn. We're going to adjourn in memory of Detective Amber Least of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Amber lost her life just, was it yesterday? In a pedestrian vehicle accident over in the valley. And then also in memory of Bill Zulager of the Kiwanis. And Edwin Morales, and I don't know where, a longtime resident. Dee Dee's nephew's best friend. Okay, but Edwin Morales, a longtime resident of Simi Valley, and we'll close tonight in memory of them. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Way to go.
I told my sister, I said, I want to give Keith something.
Edwin Morales.